Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. We are the Spy-Fi guys, and this is Mission Impossible 3. Hello and welcome back to the Spy-Fi guys, where we cover spy fact, spy fiction, and everything in between. I'm Zach.
And I'm Christian.
And this week, we are breaking with the formula. We are doing 2 fictional movies in a row because we will be doing 2 based on true stories in a row. This week, we are returning to the Mission Impossible franchise with our Mission Impossible superfan, Jay.
Woo! That's me.
Excited to have you back for this, Jay. Everyone knows that I'm a big fan of these movies, so always happy to be covering another one of these.
And I'm always happy to cover it.
Yes, this is our last Mission Impossible with a number in the title.
That makes me sad.
For now. Who knows? Maybe at 7, they'll decide, no, we're just going to go back to numbers now.
I have a suspicion that is the Friday the 13th movies that finally killed the numbered sequels, because once they hit Friday the 13th part 15 or whatever, it just got absurd.
You also had all of the Chucky movies.
Oh, gosh, yes.
That's like at 35 or something at this point.
I think, even just in like superhero movies, Iron Man's the rarity where you actually have Iron Man 2, and then 3, as opposed to like any Captain America or Thor or any of the others.
That have subtitles instead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I think it's because once you get past a trilogy, it starts becoming classy and feels more like a money grab. But again, that's just my suspicion.
Yeah.
Or it's just because Iron Man has to be Iron Man. He doesn't. I mean, that's the placard. Tony Stark would not want to be classified, have a secondary name to his movie. It would just be him.
That's right. Iron Man is all you need to sell a movie.
Yeah. But we're not here to talk about Iron Man today. We're here to talk about Ethan Hunt.
Before we get started,
Okay.
I know, am I the only one who has not seen this before? I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
Well, I do remember there were flashes. Okay, so I remember Michelle Monaghan is in it. Philip Seymour Hoffman is in it. Yeah. I remember it has the infamous line, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. And I think that was it. I think those are the only things I knew about it.
Oh, okay. So you knew about the Humpty Dumpty thing before you saw them? Was it really that?
And you knew Michelle Monaghan was in this?
Well, I worked backwards because she had been in other movies.
Okay, that makes sense.
And this is the last movie that I hadn't seen, so unless she just appears, which I don't think so.
No. So I saw this in theaters when it came out. Jay, did you see that? When did you see this for the first time?
Oh, yeah. I saw this in theaters.
This was, what, May 2005?
2006, I believe.
Was it 2006?
Yeah.
Okay, that's right. So that was the same year as Casino Royale, but before it, Casino Royale came out, because that was in November.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Correct.
So is this one considered to be a franchise killer because there was such a gap between this one and Ghost Protocol, and they're so different?
No, I don't think it was. It was more of I know part of it was just Tom Cruise's antics off the screen.
Very much so.
I see. Interesting.
And, with some films that we've covered, like Valkyrie, he sort of redeemed himself in the eyes of the world, so that by the time 2011 came around, people were like, okay, I can watch another Mission Impossible again.
Yeah, the internet was young. The memories were a little long.
Yep. So, shall we get into this?
Yes, here's the IMDb plot summary. IMF agent Ethan Hunt comes into conflict with a dangerous and sadistic arms dealer who threatens his life and his fiancée in response.
All right. So, we start this movie with a cold open. Owen Davian, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman, is there. We find... Yeah. Mm-hmm. When did how long ago was that?
Let's check
it's
IMDb
been a while,
really quick. It's gonna be longer ago than you think. 2014.
Yeah.
I was gonna say something like that. So that was 5. No,
that was 7 years ago.
7 years ago. God. Or actually 8 by the time of release.
It hurts.
So this cold opening is great. It's so gripping. The stakes are set up and they make references to things and you don't know what's going on, but it's so emotional and it's so intense. Why can't they all start like this?
Because I feel like you can only play this card once. If you start every single movie like this, then it's going to be like, yeah, but I know he's going to get out of it somehow.
That's true.
Yeah, and I feel like it was this period of time when that type of setup was getting pretty popular.
I mean, it's a classic JJ.
Yeah,
isn't
it
it?
is. But I think like a lot of movies were doing it around that time,
Mhm.
like in the 2 years before and right after. Like
Mhm.
that was a weird time where there was that whole setup period. So I feel like it got you. Yeah, like you said, you
Overplayed.
do it once and then everyone's just like, ugh.
It's like villain intentionally getting himself captured, and now you can't do that anymore.
Can you imagine if a Star Trek movie started this way?
Oh no.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I don't
It would
know.
be really weird.
Yeah. We have Ethan Hunt tied up. We've got this other person, Michelle Monaghan, we find out is Julia. We don't know their relationship yet, but later we find that's his
Mhm.
fiance. Davian is demanding to know where the rabbit's foot is.
What's the rabbit's foot? Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
How does Ethan not have it?
And there's an explosive charge in his head that we only hear that briefly. They don't linger on it. And there's this whole thing about he's going to count to 10, and if you don't tell me what it is, and he shoots her in the leg to really prove that he's serious. At 10, it's confusing. We're not sure whether we hear a bang or not, but we smash cut to the credits with the match and the fuse.
So a couple of things here. First, it's a weird coincidence that just last time we did Taken, where he also shoots the guy's wife in the leg.
Yeah.
Also, there's a part where Ethan Hunt says, "No, I'm not going to tell you, and you need to do what's right." What? What do you mean do what's right? He's the bad guy.
Yeah, but he's an American.
Desperate.
Well, that's what's so interesting about it, is that we really see Ethan at the end of his rope.
Mm-hmm.
I know that we've covered the first two movies. I don't remember them that well, even though we didn't cover them that long ago. But I don't remember him acting like that before.
No, this is a different type.
I mean, I will say at the first one, maybe we see him at the end of his rope, but he's not as out of control as he is in this scene.
It's a whole different stake for him. I mean, before obviously there were stakes of interest, but this is a whole different,
the world
level.
ending. But
I mean, it's not the world; it's his.
No, not the world.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. Disrespect to Naya. What? He didn't care about her?
Hey,
kidding. I'm kidding.
He cared, but did he care?
Oh, well, I mean, she's clearly not here, so.
Yeah, sometimes things just don't work out.
Anyway,
sometimes I do.
I found this title sequence really interesting because it was so quick. Unlike all of the other movies, there's no other images in there. Like even 2 at least had the images of Bellerophon Chimera, mythology stuff. But no, there's nothing here. Just the names, and then
with the fuse. It looked like a TV show opening.
Yeah,
it's ironic that you say that though, because the TV show opening had all those things, like the images and everything, but this is the only one that has just that.
Definitely keeps it a lot more subtle, a lot more words
basic,
discreet, and words are hard. The more secretive, because we're not supposed to know what it is exactly. We're not supposed to know whether it's a weapon, if it's some secret, some type of secret. I mean, we're not supposed to know, so they can't necessarily do anything because any type of hint would thereby give it up. Although we still don't know at the end, really, we just see a canister. So could it be a toxin? Could it be a microchip? But at least then, if they did do something, we know it's a physical something, rather than just a theoretical something.
Anyway, so the credits ends with a fridge opening, and we see Julia and Ethan. It's their engagement party. They live in Virginia.
Yes. So what did this remind you of, Christian?
I don't know.
Opening, our hero is happy at home, having a party with his friends without remorse.
Oh, no, not really.
Okay, whatever. So a couple observations at the party. The guests include Greg Grunberg, friend of J.J. Abrams.
Yep.
Sasha Alexander from NCIS.
Uh-huh.
And Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad.
Yep. Well, Aaron Paul is Julia's brother. Yeah.
Yeah, that was interesting to see.
Julia's sister. She's in a lot of TV stuff.
Beth? Carla Gallo? Or is it Rachel? Bellamy Young?
Bellamy Young sounds right. Yeah.
Oh yeah, she plays as Rachel. She's been in a number of.
She was on Scrubs. She's been on a few others. She's been on that show, that spy show that lasted 7 episodes. Whiskey Cavalier, I think.
I like how at the party she says, "Congratulations to you two, and I'm gonna make you an aunt." So it's it's all about her. That's not classy.
No, it was what it was is I'm gonna make you an aunt, so I'm expecting the same, as in hurry up, get busy.
Yeah. No parents to put the pressure on, so it has to go to the sister to put the pressure on.
I mean, Julia's mom's
Yeah.
alive, but yeah, we find out that sometime between the first movie and now, Ethan's mom died. Hopefully not from being in prison because she was mistaken for a dope smuggler.
I do not remember that. Was that in the first one?
That was a subplot where Kittredge arrested his mom and framed her for being a dope smuggler.
And then I thought to myself, but hasn't she won the Publishers Clearinghouse? And then I was like, oh wait, that was Night and Day.
That's Night and Day. Yeah. Yeah. Ethan's cover up is at Virginia Department of Transportation. He makes this big speech about traffic patterns, which I love. Just because I feel like sometimes when I'm just describing my job, I'll be enthusiastic, and the person in front of me will have Greg Grunberg's face, sure.
I feel like we've all been there with our various jobs. Also, in this part, I notice his tooth prominently. Tom Cruise's weird-looking tooth.
Yeah.
What's his post when he had Invisalign? Because that was it when he was filming Minority Report, I think.
I don't know. It was just blatant, and they lit it up like a Christmas tree. Happy holidays, everybody! But gosh, that lighting choice was a thing.
But we also see some of Ethan's spy skills in effect here, eavesdropping on Julia and her friends, reading their lips from a distance.
Yeah, that's a setup for later.
Yeah, while shaking ice, so he definitely can't hear. It annoys me that how perfectly good he can lip read when it's only like a 40% accuracy, but he's able to make it out perfect.
I mean, she's trying to remember the name of a lake that they met nearby, Lake Wanaka in New Zealand. Also, Ethan Hunt has a dog who's stealing food off chairs, and it is pretty cute.
But will never be seen again.
I also in one scene later.
I also noticed during this bit, the writers are some guy I didn't recognize his name, J.J. Abrams and Alex Kurtzman.
Yep,
which was interesting.
And who's Kurtzman's partner? He usually worked with.
I don't remember.
The guy who did Watchmen.
Zack Snyder?
Not that Watchmen, the good Watchmen. Although I don't know. Do you beg to differ on that?
TV show?
Yeah.
I don't know the name of the guy who did that.
Hold on.
David Lindelof?
Yeah, that's what. Damien Lindelof.
Oh. Well, I didn't recognize his name as one of the writers.
Yeah.
I was just looking up on IMDb. It's Roberto Orsi.
Oh,
is the third
Roberto.
writer.
Oh, Orsi. Yeah, no. He wrote all the JJ Star Trek movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Him and Kurtzman. Yeah.
And he was a producer of Ender's Game.
Ethan get a phone call. I'm trying to remember who calls him. It sounds like a spam call. It's like a chance to enter to win something. But we can tell by his serious face that it's not just any phone call.
A trip to Mexico, all expense paid.
Right.
Yeah, I like the code phrase. When he goes to a convenience get the message, it's weird to see him walk in without a map. So this guy he meets inside, who we learn later is like the deputy
director.
His name is
Musgrave.
Were we supposed to know who he was?
No, he's just supposed to be a guy, and then you get from context clues that he works at IMF as well.
Yeah, someone from his past allegiances or team.
Yeah,
right.
So here's where we find out that Ethan is out of the game. He only trains IMF agents now. He's not active in the field. And that Musgrave tells him that Agent Ferris, who was one of his trainees, is missing. He's sending in a team, but he was hoping that Ethan would be on board for helping them out.
So I thought this was interesting. It didn't occur to me right away, but it occurred to me later. This is very low stakes for Ethan Hunt. In the past couple of movies, he's taken on like bioweapons and like every spy in the world is going to get killed. So it's just interesting that this is what brings him back. And it's not a complaint. I actually liked it. It seems more grounded. It's a nice change
it's also
of pace.
more personal because it's someone that he trained.
Personally,
that's why.
Trains and also recommends for duty.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
A little bit of an issue with that, but we'll get to it.
All right, so Musgrave was like, take some pictures at the party for me, like, hits a certain disposable camera. Hey, remember those?
They still exist. They have a function for people.
Yeah, weddings.
Who don't want to use their phone for whatever reason.
Yeah. Apparently it's the next day because when he's opening it up, the party's over and it's already daytime. So I assume it's the next day. And Lindsay was tracking someone named Owen Davian, but she got captured and tracked Owen Davian, and they have a hostage who they assume is Lindsay in Germany. Normally they would disavow, but she was their best lead at getting to Davian. So he's got a team ready, including Luther.
So again, Davian is pretty low level for Ethan. He's just a common criminal. I mean, it turns out he's not, but that's the way it appears when you start the mission.
I think
we know he's an arms dealer.
Yeah, he drops hints that he is a relatively large target for the agency.
They weren't actually going to disavow because they were trying to get to him. Tells you that he's higher up. He's not just a regular guy.
And considering Luther's involved, I mean...
Yeah, it's just a bit of a disconnect.
Anyway, so Ethan wakes up from a dream where he's hearing Lindsay's voice saying, "Am I ready?" He tells Julia that he's got a last-minute conference. Apparently, Metro has a public transpo conference, is what he calls it.
People in DOT do not say transpo.
I was wondering about that. I was like, I've never heard that term before.
It's not used.
LA screenwriters again. Those LA screenwriters. Kurtzman.
So Ethan, of course, has to have a motorcycle, takes his motorcycle to the airstrip, and meets up with his team. We know Luther, but we meet the two other members, Declan and Zen. Declan, played by that
Jonathan
guy.
Rhys-Meyers.
That's the one. Not Jonathan Rhys-Davids, but Jonathan Rhys-Meyers.
Yeah,
the lesser of the
I
two
always get that
Jonathan
mixed
Rhys-es.
up. I always mix those up.
And Zen, played by Maggie Q.
Yeah, oh my God. When she came on, I was like, Maggie Q? I completely forgot, one, she was in it.
Yeah.
Two, it made me pause it, go, what year is it? And when was this again? Holy crap. Yeah, I immediately felt old.
She's doing a lot of stuff. I looked her up on IMDb. She's still working.
She's huge.
Yeah. Designated Survivor, I think she's been.
Yeah, it just threw me for a loop. I was like, holy crap. Is that really? Oh yeah, that's right. She's like 20-something in this.
What? Really? Oh, man.
Yeah, I think she's like 27 in this movie.
Yeah, she was born in 1979. So one thing here, Luther says to Ethan, well, if it isn't Mr. Those Who Can't Do Teach. And this confused me because I was like, when did Ethan ever say that?
It's a very popular saying about teachers.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
about professors.
It's not fitting with what Ethan's character is like. Maybe in the first one when he's really cocky.
We know now that he's... Wait, what? Why would that make sense if he was cocky?
Okay, so the expression, those who can't do teach, is like a shot at teachers, right? It's like, you're not good enough to stick it out in the real world, so you become a teacher. That seems like kind of an asshole thing for Ethan to say, and I don't think that's fitting with Ethan's character.
I don't think Ethan actually said that ever. I think it's just Luther busting his balls.
Yeah, it's 100% just what you say to professors.
It confused me.
If your friends are professors, you go, it's a natural, it's just a regular generic mockery of a good friend to another friend. It's not a
it's not a literal, oh, you told me this, so I'm going to throw this back in your face.
Yeah, and it's not a literal, like, you suck at life, so you had to go teach. It's a jovial mockery of each other. And he does it with a huge smile. Which is what they do,
yeah.
I guess this movie's too smart for me.
Anyway, so they get to Berlin. They're doing some nice sneaking around. Ethan's setting up something. We're not sure what at that point. Luther is classic in his van. He has all these mods with all the red trackballs.
Yeah, remember trackballs?
Remember the arcade games of golf? I was just like, why is he playing golf? This is the most inefficient usage of those.
Golden Tee, that's the game. I was like, what is it?
It's such an inefficient way to manipulate that. I mean, the precision required, it blew my mind. We also get Luther, Ethan having a moment of, I got you got my six, and that whole banter back and forth, which we get back to later on as well. It's a callback later.
Yeah. I love their relationship. Like, just the fact that he's the only one who's been in all of the movies besides Tom Cruise gives that weight of, I've got your six.
Yeah, it definitely plays to the camaraderie and the fact that Ethan has lightened up to a degree, and so has Luther, where they're able to go at it more. Like before, they had a little bit of a little banter back and forth, but it wasn't to the same degree of in your face. It's not that frat bro style.
Yeah.
Like, it very much felt like, and you're so like, is it because he's retired, so now they can just shoot the shit, or I don't know. It felt very Nice, because then it also shows that Ethan, his priorities have changed. He's thinking more humanistically, which is why the stakes are so high just because it's his fiancée. It sets up that whole, it's not the weight of the world, it's the people around me that I'm now taking into consideration.
I seem to remember in the first one, there's a part where Luther's like, do that to me again and I'll kill you.
No, that was Krieger. That was the other guy.
That was someone else? All right.
Yep.
Maybe I'll cut that
part.
part.
That was Jean Reno.
They have their girl talk, and then they execute their plan, which seems to involve blowing up everything and shooting all the guns at everyone.
Yep. So we find that all those red trackballs control all these different guns, and he's like got 5 of them, and he's so Luther is basically, suppression fire.
I did find it interesting that there were gaps in the coverage. Like, I assumed with 5, you'd be able to cover every possible section of the building, but there were big chunks left.
Well, I think it was really for distraction and not to try to kill anyone. Well, I'm sure. True.
2 birds, 5 guns.
Okay, blame it on Ethan because he's the one who set up all those different things.
This whole plot.
Out of the game. Oh, he's been out of the game.
Yeah, there it is. That's it. While Ethan is going to try to find Lindsay, Zen is going after their computers, and Ethan gets eyes on Lindsay, gives her a shot of adrenaline.
I wanted to jump in here. He shoots one guy. There's one guy guarding Lindsay, and so you don't need to blow up everything. The guys from Zero Dark 30 could have done this no problem.
Well, they don't know how many people are initially.
No, they know it's 14 men.
Well, before they get there.
Before they get there, they don't necessarily know the numbers, so they had to set up.
Oh, yeah.
And then 2, yes, there's only one person because all the people who are interrogating leave the room. And you don't necessarily want a bunch of henchmen knowing all your secrets, because then you have to kill your own henchmen. Quick question. Zen was not initially... they tasked to get the computers. It wasn't because they didn't know that there were computers there.
I was wondering about this too.
I don't think they did. I think he calls out the fact that there are computers, and then she has to.
Oh,
then
that's probably
they beeline it and they adjust the parameters
I think
of
you're
the
right.
mission.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, as you guys know, sometimes I miss stuff, but I didn't remember them being told your secondary objective is to get some computers. Also, like in Zero Dark 30. Yeah, so she grabs some stuff and then gets interrupted by a dead guy who drops a live grenade, as dead bodies are prone to do. And Lindsay says something to Ethan like, it's a trap, turn off your transporter.
No, what she says is, I have something to tell only you. Turn off your transmitter.
Yeah, it went kind of fast.
Turn it off.
Yeah.
And he's about to, when, the explosion happens behind them, they get separated into 2 different parts. Ethan does a sweet gun toss that I'm sure is CGI, but I really don't want to look it up because I don't want to know if it's CGI.
I mean, it wasn't that crazy of a gun toss. They could have done it for real.
They could have, and if it was Tom Cruise now, they definitely would have done it for real. But in that era, he was doing a bit more CGI stuff. So, but yeah, so they do a sweet gun toss where he throws it and she catches it. Zen grabs a fried laptop. There's just one guy left. How many rounds you have? Enough. Shoots him. Now I'm out.
Just needs that one.
Right? They didn't bring a lot of bullets, I guess. So, yeah.
Like you said, initially it was supposed to be a covert operation.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit skeptical about that.
5 massive...
I don't know how covert it was supposed to be, but So zip line down to the van, basically get on top of it, drive away, drive to the chopper. Basically, once they get to the chopper, Lindsay's head starts hurting.
That was a really good twist because I was like, oh yeah, the explosive in the head from before. If you're paying attention, you know what's happening. Oh my gosh, it's so scary. That was really good.
So they have a really good chase through the windmills. Declan is the one flying the
chopper. We'll lose him in the asteroid field.
He does a pretty good job.
I never understood terrorist pilots who decide, oh yeah, they're going through a bunch of windmills.
I'm gonna follow.
Let me go. Why don't I have like 20 missiles? Why don't I just hover and fire?
That too. Yeah.
It's because it's a movie. Yeah.
But
Or
yeah,
they're
so
cocky. They're their own Ethan Hunts.
There's a part where the pilot says, "Okay, that was luck," when they get missed by a missile. I'm like,
we only
that's
get
the
one of those.
IMF.
Yep.
That's the IMF, everybody. They just get lucky sometimes.
Yep. You only get it once.
So Ethan scans her head, finds out about the time release charge. I like here that Luther is firing flares to like trick the missiles that they're firing at them. Ethan realizes the only way to get rid of the charge is to short it by using a defibrillator and then using it again to bring her back.
I like how you use the term zap to describe using a defibrillator.
But then they almost get hit and Zen falls out of the chopper and they have to hold on to her. And if not for that, they probably would have saved her. But the bomb goes off in Lindsay's head with 4 seconds left as it's still charging.
It's quite the death. It's pretty upsetting.
And it's just sort of her eye twitches like, ugh.
The whole body does like a convulsion, I thought. That being said, I did expect her head to explode after 2 Suicide Squad movies. That's what I was expecting. But somehow I don't think the movie would have been PG-13 if they had done that.
Yeah. So Ethan gets back home. Julia immediately senses something wrong. We go to a conference room where we meet IMF Executive Director Brassel, played by Lawrence Fishburne.
Yeah, buddy.
Not Brussels, Brassel.
And Brassel is ripping Ethan and Musgrave a new one.
Yes, he says it's poorly conceived and executed worse. And it was. This plan is indefensible. What do you guys think? They didn't need to blow up everything. Everything exploded.
Plausible deniability if no one is there to tattle.
Okay, so you go in, you get her out, and then you hit it with a drone. No problem. She would have been fine.
Well,
the point I'm trying to make here is not to be super critical, though I do love doing that. The point is, it's a Hollywood movie, so they do Hollywood stuff, and they love explosions, and I just like that for once they were getting called on the carpet for it.
Oh, no, I absolutely enjoyed the hell out of it when I first saw it, and then when I watched it again the other day. It's a great thing, because it's the way Ethan operates. He conceives of these very elaborate plans where there's a lot of things
standards. This is not the most crazy elaborate thing he's ever done.
Yeah. This is actually pretty standard. And in theory, if it goes off the way they initially plan, where they infiltrate, take them out, and then just jet, because that's the initial plan, then all is well. I think what threw it off was the fact that they realized, one, it was Lindsay's still alive. 2, there were laptops with potential information, and they knew how desperate they were to get to Davian.
Intel, yep.
The fact that he was basically surrounded at that point. He was trying to get around, but they were like, there's a lot. And I think between the laptops and the fact that he had a very limited time frame, that's when it all went boom, 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 boom time. I think the initial plan was just fine. It just, the contingency plans weren't there other than blow it up.
I remain unconvinced, but we can agree to disagree.
Yeah. So we also,
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's the thing.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I mean, this is me, so of course I'm going to be on Ethan's side here. Ethan's being defensive about Lindsay, and I'm like, I can see that. But this is also where we talk up Owen Davian about how important he is, and it mentions a few different things that Davian did to make the world a worse place.
That's right. And they say he's a ghost. They have a picture of him, but they can't find him somehow.
So we also find out here that apparently the cover for Lindsay's death is a head-on collision on I-95. Like, of all the things, that?
DC has the worst traffic in the country.
But I don't know about fatal car accidents, though.
Yeah.
But if you hear a city has the worst traffic, it's not
I feel like Hawaii actually maybe it's usually up there between those two.
It's usually LA, DC, and Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii, yeah.
They should have said she got killed while riding one of those electric scooters. I don't know if you guys remember this, but there was a period in like 2018 when like someone would die every few days while riding one of those in DC.
I did not hear about
them
those.
in 2006.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. That's what this movie is set, Zach. Unless they, this is a magical, Fast and Furious timeline where suddenly 2006 is after 2018. Hold on, those are like almost exact dates that we're talking about, aren't they, Jay?
Yeah.
This movie didn't feel like it was from 2006.
Oh no, it does. It's not dated. The only thing that dates it a tiny bit is like the flip phone that Musgrave has,
and the clothing.
That's about it.
Declan's outfits. I was like, oh my god.
Oh, Declan's outfit. Sure, yeah.
I remember wearing that outfit before.
All right, yeah, that's fair. I was like,
when things were
no, Tom
comfortable.
Cruise is very, just low key, long, sweaters rolled up, pretty simple, and still works today. Anyways, so we have Lindsay's funeral, and during the funeral, Ethan's having flashbacks of training Lindsay.
Okay, so I have an issue with this.
Oh,
the time to have a flashback of him training her should have been before she died.
There was no time to do that.
Yes, there was. There could have been a conversation where he's like, Lindsay, she was my best student. Flashback, and now she's in trouble. What do I do?
Well, we had a little bit of that. We had just the briefest, am I right? Like him, like when he's having that dream and hearing her voice. We had that. And I feel like that slows the pace down too much.
One, I think it slows the pace down a little too much. Two, the subtle, am I ready, really makes you wonder why he is so concerned. So it brings up the anxiety level. Because if you have this training montage of, okay, then she should have been, then you're angry rather than you're like anxious. So it really just helps build up more of the anxiety of why is he so concerned? Why is she such a big deal? He trained her. Okay, great. She asked, am I ready? And why is it playing on him so heavily? If they gave you the montage, it would have changed the whole atmosphere of, and the whole idea of her when they're trying to break out, like her doing all these amazing things. If we saw the montage, we'd expect her to be able to do everything Ethan does.
That's true.
And plus more. If you only get, am I ready? You expect her to not be quite as sure. So the fact that she can shoot, she can do all these things, but not quite on the same level, gives you that whole sense of, oh, did he throw her into the wolves?
Yeah, another possibility is it shows how dangerous the villain is. If someone almost as well trained as Ethan got caught by him. I guess the only point I'm trying to make here is I never feel like it makes sense to get to know a character after that character is already dead.
That's fair, but it's not really getting to know. She's a plot device here. She's not really a character. She's something to make you feel emotions, but she has no character of her own.
Well, I don't like that, but
it's not great, but that's what for purposes here. But I did like that Ethan Hunt was training using a screamer.
It reminded me of Captain Marvel. Carol, you're too emotional. That part.
So he gets a phone call right after the funeral. A piece of mail from you from Berlin. Lindsay Ferris wanted me to let you know when it arrived. It's a postcard that's blank, but under the stamp is a microdot.
Okay, I have a question. Are microdots normally that big? I seem to remember they're the size of like a period on a piece of paper.
It could be.
I guess it's like they need to make it big so the audience can see it.
One, so you can see it. Two, I mean, again, 2006. How good is the technology? And they also mentioned that she had to go old school.
He gives a microdot to Luther. He says there's nothing on this microdot, but more conversation of basically, what was your relationship with Lindsay? Were you sleeping with her?
This part was incomprehensible.
What?
The part where he says,
everyone.
No, not that. When he says, she was like a little sister to me, and Ving Rhames says, well, do you sleep with your little sister? What?
And he had to push the point, basically, and he said, hey, if I'm not going to ask, who will?
I thought that whole bit was very unnecessary.
Because one, Ethan is known to enjoy the companionship of many of his marks.
Okay, you know what? You say that. It's only been once.
It's been once in one movie. Yeah.
He never slept
We're just going with the
Claire.
The way they portray him is that he is very charismatic.
Right.
Two, but it also plays to the point of, again, he's trying to get to the heart of the relationship. Is he telling the whole truth? Okay, your little sister, or is it something deeper? Plus the fact that we already had the conversation where Luther talks about how relationships in their field don't really work.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, is that after?
Not yet. But then, there's a little bit of, actually, you know what?
Yeah.
It's the beginning intro to, you can't have normal relationships.
Yeah.
And you saying it's your little sister, considering how messed up your head is, what does that mean? Are you just throwing me a line, or are you throwing me an actual, because he's obviously going to be questioned again. If I were his superior, I'd ask the same question. Why are you so wrapped up? You've never been wrapped up like this because of another agent. So why is this one so the reason you're so distraught? It's enough to come back out of retirement, much less.
Yeah. This is where we meet Benji, played by Simon Pegg.
And of course, he's a lab rat.
Yep, has apparently recovered portions of emails. We find out that Davian will be at the Vatican, and also he's apparently taking possession of an item known as the rabbit foot. And he gives this whole big speech about this old professor of him he has, who basically predicted that the world would someday be ended by this piece of technology called the anti-god.
I loved that. That was fantastic. It's like some Lovecraftian stuff. It seems like the kind of thing Grant Morrison would come up with for his run on Justice League of America.
Yeah. But that's just conjecture he has because he actually had no idea what the rabbit's foot is. Ethan tells Benji not to tell Musgrave about this yet, so that he'll have deniability for the operation if it goes bad. And of course, Luther's like, "Wait, what operation?"
Great decision.
So that also shows that Ethan is really taking care of those he actually cares about. He obviously has a good relationship with Director Musgrave, so much so that he would love to be able to introduce them, going that extra mile to protect those that he cares. So it's definitely building up the fact that Ethan has a completely different mindset and a different priority set.
Okay, maybe I didn't get this. Why did he keep it a secret from Musgrave?
Deniability, so that if it doesn't blow back on Musgrave if it goes wrong, because it was an unauthorized operation.
And Brassels is already up their booty.
But why didn't he get an authorization?
Because they wouldn't give it to him if they did.
Why wouldn't they? This rabbit's foot anti-god, that sounds dangerous. That sounds bad.
Because Brassels thinks they're incompetent.
But Brassels just told them to go get Davian. And that's what they're going to go do. Yes, he did.
No.
Who told him to go get him then? Somebody did.
No one. This is all Ethan on his own, trying to track down Davian because he killed Lindsay.
Okay, who was the one who gave them the whole briefing about how Philip...
He was saying that it was Brassel, and he was saying, this is the man who keeps giving and giving and giving, and we have nothing. That's what he says. He doesn't say, go find him. He's just trying to play up the threat that he possesses.
That's the obvious implication.
No, he's also talking about why it was so important that... What's Carrie Russell?
Yeah, that Lindsay make it back okay because she was tracking him.
Right. So it's him yelling at him, telling him how incompetent and how much he's ruined it, and the stakes that he's ruined and all of the hard work that they were ruined. It's not the fact that he's like, hey, you ruined this, go fix this. It's you ruined this. You suck at life. I hate you. I have to start from scratch.
I understand that, but this doesn't make any sense.
Why? I'm not sure why.
I feel like we're kind of going in a little bit of a circle here, but Ethan comes to information about how to get Davian, right? That's correct. We all agree about that.
Yes.
He knows where Davian is. He knows that Davian's trying to get some dangerous MacGuffin. So rather than just tell his bosses who want to get Davian, he just goes and gets him on his own without even getting authorization.
Yes.
For no reason.
That is who Ethan Hunt is. Because he doesn't think that they'll let do it if they would give it to someone else. They wouldn't give it to him.
Because one, Ethan is still retired. He's still a teacher. He's no longer in the field. He would never, they would not give him the approval. They might give Luther approval, but they wouldn't definitely not give Ethan approval.
Okay, so you're saying it makes sense. It's just that Ethan makes bad decisions.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
He's making decisions based on emotion here, based on his feelings about Lindsay. And just about Lindsay. So, yes.
Okay, good. So now that we've established that, we could move on.
Well, hold on. Also, there's a start of a lingering sense of threat because the fact that Lindsay sent the microdot to him, and like Luther brings up, why would she be sending anything to you? You're not her handler. You were her trainer. So the fact that there's something else, something larger going on, is part of Ethan's reasoning of why he's doing this.
Oh, the idea is like there's a traitor in the IMF again.
There's some conspiracy, a traitor. Yeah. Ethan goes to see Julie at work. They talk on the roof, tells her that he has to go away on a work trip again, but she doesn't buy it. She's like, she needs to know that it's real. So what's the one thing that can make her give him all the trust? Marrying her right here, right now, in the hospital.
A ring on that finger.
With some toy rubber rings.
Which looked like they came out of like one of those like gumball machines.
100% gift shop / candy machines. Green with like a frog or something on it.
It was cute. Though that being said, something about this scene is apparently Ethan Hunt is his real name.
Yeah.
So he uses that name in both the civilian world and his work world.
Yeah. No one knows his work persona.
Well, every bad guy he meets learns his real name.
And they dead.
Not all of them. He just leaves a trail of bodies everywhere he goes.
Pretty much. Henchmen don't know it's Ethan.
I was hoping that he would at least have a fake last name when he went into retirement. The witness protection program, something.
Too much paperwork.
I mean, and also he still works for IMF.
Yes, that's true.
Have you had to renew a badge for anything? It's a pain in the butt. It's a lot of paperwork.
I mean,
now
changing your name in general, like just ask any woman who changed her name after she got married. It's a whole pain.
Then you gotta do your passport,
IDs, any account you have with any airlines, anything. Yeah. Anyways, it's a whole pain.
America would not be happy.
Well, his wife almost gets killed because of it, so whatever.
No, but we'll get there. They get married. They have in a storage closet at the hospital because that's sanitary.
Well, I mean,
it's a hospital. Hospitals are sanitary.
Lies.
Everyone else.
Have you not watched Scrubs?
I know. As soon as I saw that, I thought about Scrubs. I was like, yeah, I know they do that, but still, I would not want to know that whatever piece of equipment was used on me. Anyways.
It's cleaning chemicals, so they're probably super clean afterwards.
Okay, guys, enough of the sex. Let's go to the Vatican.
So they're planning the mission to go break into the Vatican. They have to basically get Ethan over the Vatican wall. Ethan and Den pretend to be DHL drivers, and they're like start fighting Italian over what happened with the truck because it faked that their truck broke down.
Ethan's costume here reminded me of the one from Valkyrie when he gets blown up in the beginning.
Yeah. He shoots a camera with this little thing that deactivates it. Uses the same gun to launch a grappling hook. And gets on top. Says the infamous Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall.
Okay, can we please talk about this?
What's to talk about?
Why does he say it?
It's his code phrase for saying he's in position.
I think you just made that up.
No, that's pretty much it.
That's 100% it. He's on the wall. He's in position. Ready to fall.
Okay, the first time I watched it, I thought he was like talking to himself or to the audience in like a fourth wall break. And it was really strange. It's only a little bit strange that he wouldn't just say, I'm on the wall or I'm in position.
Deniable, plausible
deniability.
Words are hard. No, but it's to make sure that if they do end up getting intercepted, that it's just a code phrase. You don't necessarily know. Yeah. Maybe he is just talking to himself.
I think the YouTube video of this takes all that context away, and it's much funnier because you don't know why he says it. But yeah, I like his device that says how far down to the ground it is in meters,
I also
of course.
Like how he avoids the camera. So the Vatican wall has cameras along all of it. Mm-hmm. And so what he does is he takes a photo from the exact angle that the camera was at, prints it, puts it on a little flap that hangs over it so it looks like exactly what the camera would see.
I like how low tech it is. Piece of metal with a hinge.
Yep.
With a stupid picture on it. I loved how low tech that ended up being. Yep. And the measuring tool is it's just a nice little laser measuring tool. Yeah. I used to have one. I don't have it. I lost mine in a move a long time ago.
Well, the picture thing works because the security cameras are so low resolution that if you stick a picture in front of it, they won't even be able to tell the difference.
But then, so he uses it, like you said, he uses a laser, and then he's still got the grapple hook on him. So he rolls over the wall, and there's the classic Mission Impossible pose.
Yep,
which I like.
I didn't realize it was going to be a requirement in all the movies.
I mean, he's a poser.
No, pretty much all of them, actually. Yeah.
Well, I don't remember them in the not numbered ones.
It's in Ghost Protocol and to a degree in Fallout, but we'll get to it.
Okay, so at this point, I had a question, which is why don't they just call the Vatican on the phone and say, "Please arrest Davian for us"?
Vatican? They are their own independent country who will not put up with his crap.
Yeah, they don't necessarily play nice with anybody. 1, 2, Davian isn't to the outside world known as a criminal. He's just some rich
guy.
Yeah, so they would have no probable reason to go and arrest him, much less from a field
American
agent instructor.
Oh yeah, he has no authority.
Yeah, I was wondering about that because, like, for other countries that they broke it into, like the Kremlin, if it's an unfriendly country, then it makes sense that they won't help them. But I feel like the Vatican would.
No, the Vatican of all places, I feel like would not.
They're like the Swiss, where they're just neutral.
No, they would probably do their own investigation.
I will have you know that according to Hudson Hawk, the Vatican organization is a very,
the Vatican organization
friendly spy agency that will help out Americans all the time.
I am surprised that the Vatican organization has not come up yet.
Drinking their Kool-Aid.
Oh, man. Anyway,
check out Hudson Hawk on our previous coverage.
Speaking of the Vatican organization, so Ethan ditches his disguise as a DHL driver for a priest disguise. And we get a brief shot of Luther in scuba gear going underneath the Vatican.
That's right. Don't ask how Luther can talk on his radio while scuba diving.
You know, I've never questioned it, but I feel like there are scuba radios in them.
I mean, if he's wearing a full getup, you can. Yeah. Or is it just a trick of the timing where maybe he said it right as he's going in?
I don't know. Anyway,
or as he's surfacing, or there could just be a time flux. But yeah, no, that's actually a good question.
It's all good. We'll replace that question with another question, which is Zen shows up in a sexy car.
We have much more to get to before her.
I didn't have anything relevant.
Well, I do. Wow. I've got plenty.
Wow.
Okay. Carry on then.
Ethan goes into a central room, which you will recognize, or may not, as Queen Amidala's throne room from episode 1.
Oh, yes.
This is filmed.
Yes.
Yes, right? If you look at it, that's that room. It's also, this was filmed in a castle whose name is escaping me right now. I have to look it up. So it's somewhere I went, not on my honeymoon this time, but on a trip to Rome, and it's right outside the city. So I'm like, you know what? They filmed 2 movies I like here. I have to go. It's Caserta.
At least they got the country right.
Well, it's because the Vatican is notoriously hard to film in. And so I've got photos of myself in this room. I'll post them in the social media when we post this episode. And it made me realize, I don't think I talked about it last time we recorded a Mission Impossible movie, but I think MI2 is the only film where I haven't visited one of those locations, mainly because it's all filmed in Australia, and I've never been to Australia.
No, Australia is a tough one.
So Declan is over in St. Peter's Square. He's posing as like a tourist. Ethan is going into the underground areas of the Vatican. He plugs into their security. There's a lovely shot of a ceiling painting which I realized I was like just going through my pictures from Caserta. Like, wait, I have this exact photo too. And like I don't think I even knew that was from the movie. I was just like, that's a very cool fresco. So he fires a tracer at a manhole cover, which will be important later. Declan changes into a security guard uniform, and this is now where we get Jen driving a very fancy car in a very fancy dress.
Okay, so here's my question about the dress. I have been to the Vatican in 7th grade, and they told us you have to dress modestly when you go to the Vatican.
Sure, but were you there for a very exclusive party with a bunch of rich people?
Rich people are always above the rules.
Correct, especially if they're giving money. And
so
she looks fantastic, but that car looks so much better.
And they're matching colors too.
It's a great car.
They blow a hole through a wall to get to each other, and Declan gets Zen in because she wasn't on the guest list.
That was actually a very clever way to do it. And again, very low-key, very lo-fi way to do it. Just, hey, this guard comes up and it's like, hold on, is that you? Oh, yeah, sorry.
I feel like that guard should have known who Declan was and known that he wasn't a guard. But on the other hand, like the Vatican probably has so many guards that they can't know everyone.
Yeah, and different
shifts. It used to bother me, but I'm like, no, there's got to be so many guards, and it's just like...
Yeah, plus their guards work 24/7, so like, what shift are they? And considering it's a huge party, they probably pulled in other guards.
Yeah.
Maybe, they probably just didn't cross paths, or maybe he just has that kind of face.
That's true. Like, that would be good for an IMF agent, especially one who doesn't seem to use masks a lot. If he just had one of that kind of face. Anyway, so speaking of masks, Jen spots Davian. She takes photos all around him to try to get so they can make a mask of him.
Yep, a nice, good composite image for the printer.
It's like a 3D printer.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah. This is the first time we see the mask maker. And like Zach said, it's basically a 3D printer. Although, unlike a 3D printer, it seems like it does the opposite. Or instead of adding material, it actually takes away material from that mold.
Yeah, so it's
Mhm.
like a lot of older model making they're called planners and planners. So you get a big chunk of wood, for
Yeah.
example, and then it just starts to
Mhm.
drill around it and then slowly makes out the shape, pulls out the shape out of it. And it's a little more advanced because it goes up vertically up and down and it actually carves it horizontally into the block of wood. But yeah, I mean, it's an old school technology that's
Yeah.
pretty been around for a while. I do like the fact that they show that like the little bits are flying off, so it's not just like
Not
it's
just
just
perfect.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
showing that it's being sanded down and trimmed down.
So this use of the mask, I don't mind. It works for me.
Yeah.
Other situations, not so much. This is also when we get relationship talk part 2.
Yep. Luther says that basically, it never goes past 2 years. Time out with the woman never goes past 23 months or something like
Ethan says, I'm not in the field anymore. And I was like, is that supposed to be ironic that he's in the field right
Yes.
now when he says that? Okay.
Yes, because Luther literally says, here's a retirement present and his mask. So yes,
Yes.
it's supposed to be ironic. He also applies the voice patches that we saw from MI2 to his throat. Zen notices Davian picks up a briefcase. Luther's also applying eyebrows and a wig to it. And I like this. So Zen knocks into Davian, spills wine on his shirt. He goes to the bathroom and Ethan is on his way.
How many movies have we seen where someone accidentally spills wine on a target?
It's a classic. It's classic misdirection.
It doesn't seem to get tired.
Ethan tells Luther that he got married. And he's like, "Oh, congratulations!" And this is where it's basically it's Philip Seymour Hoffman with Tom Cruise's voice coming out, and it's a weird disconnect. But it worked. You believe it because you see this really good shot of when they're applying the mask and patting down different parts of it. I'm not sure where the switch is. This time I tried to find the cut where it goes from Tom Cruise with a Philip Seymour mask on to Philip Seymour Hoffman with little extra bits that he's patting down.
Yeah, so I watched it and I was like, okay, the transition is gonna happen. It's gonna happen, and the transition was really good. It was very smooth. So he does the eyes. He pats down the eyebrows. He starts messing with the hair. He's tucking it into the front, and then as he reaches around to fix the wig and tuck in farther, he goes up and down.
Oh, the arms go over, and that's where it is. Oh, I have to rewatch that because that was a good cut. I was like, is it before? Because there's a part where where Luther's body goes in front of him. I was like, no, it's still the mask there. Clearly,
yeah.
I was like, where's the cut?
Yeah, there is a cut as well, but it's the beginning transition of this, so you can see the bottom half fake, but it's and then
that's
just
so good. That's
impose
so good.
over on top of it. It was very slick.
Yeah. Anyways, so in the bathroom, Ethan, pops up from a grate and stands right behind him, and it's got to be what would your reaction be if you're in the bathroom, you're leaning down, you wash your hands or something, you come back up, and there's a guy with your face standing right behind you?
Well, I'll make the obvious joke and say, Matt, get out of the bathroom. I'm not done yet.
Didn't even occur to me.
No, I'm not too good for that.
Oh, man.
Well played.
Yeah.
So I'm surprised that they gave away that they had a mask of Davian. It's why didn't they just knock him out and then he'd never know? But it's revealed later why.
Yeah, in about 2 seconds. So,
but it's also because it's one of the key parts of Mission Impossible, the mask. You always want to, you want to be able to go.
I think Zach was meaning, why would they reveal it to Davian?
To Davian?
That they had
That's right.
Yeah, not just to the audience, to Davian. Yeah.
Because that's a very useful ability that you don't want to give away.
And we'll get to it, but Davian has a mole inside IMF, so he would know about this technology, and we see him utilize it later.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't want to cut you guys off. What would your reaction be to meeting someone who looked exactly the same as you?
I would be freaked out, definitely. Just what the? And probably too shocked to do anything else. I would like to think that having seen this movie and knowing that a double standing right behind me is probably bad, that I would try to do something, but I'd probably be more shocked than anything else. And then, there I go, and I'm getting tranked. Jay?
I would probably reach for my glasses and say, hey, sorry, bro. Because I would assume it's just another Asian.
Folks, we'll be here all week.
The reason that Zach asked the question, why didn't they knock him out? Right here, we get to it. So, he makes Davian read a card which has this poem on it. It allows them to copy his voice.
Yeah.
Right.
So this was really good. I like that it's like their technology slowly gets better in each movie, but it's not perfect. Like in later movies, they don't seem to need to do this because their technology has improved.
Well, it's not just that. It's because they didn't need it for the last movie either. What it is they have no file on this guy.
Yeah, they don't know what his voice sounds like.
They're starting from scratch. It's like trying to teach Alexa or Siri your voice for the first time.
Mm-hmm.
Gen 1 Siri, hello. Or Windows or Dragon Speak for the first time when they tell you to read this huge giant paragraph because it has to be able to figure out how these consonants work with the vowels and also the chas and the sh and all that. So they have to be very, very much very succinct and very specific on what sounds to build around.
And yet after all that, it still doesn't work. Those first generation Dragon dictation.
I thought you were talking about the chips. No, that their voice patch worked perfectly.
Oh no, in Hollywood it works great. In real life,
you're right. Yeah, yes,
not so much.
So as it's loading and loading, did anyone else feel really uncomfortable considering current day life when Ethan's just like, space?
Oh yeah,
give me my space. Give me my space.
I did not. It didn't occur to me.
I was like,
but now that you say
6 feet,
I
buddy,
can't.
6 feet. You stay away. No mask. 6 feet. Back off.
Didn't think about it, but now I won't be able to unsee that.
But it was a good thing. I expected him to, when I first saw it, I expected him to point down at the cigarette.
The cigarette?
Yeah. So Davian is a smoker. So, I mean, as he starts coughing, I'd be like, and the guy is obviously giving him the quizzical look. I would have just been like,
smoking.
What can I say? It's going to give me cancer, but I love it. Scene was good, but I feel like it was avoidable for someone as smart as Ethan. Could have figured out a way around it.
I mean, that's his way. That was his way around. He's like, all right, it's still loading, so he needs to improvise. I can't talk, so what do? I fake that I'm coughing.
Not just that, but he has to keep his attention. He has to keep the bodyguard's attention.
Oh, that's true, because
Declan is behind the door.
Oh, yeah.
Turn around to walk out, Declan would be in full view holding
real David.
So he has to keep his attention. Hence the stay, but watch me. Stay.
That's true. Good point.
Yeah. The bodyguard leaves. Declan takes Rio Davian, and Ethan, as Davian, sees Zen. They have some flirty dialogue, which the translator has to translate. How awkward is that to be the translator who has to translate someone's pickup lines? Jay, have you had to do this?
Yes, many times.
Yeah, she seems like she's used to it. Like it's just another day at the office.
It's just something that happens when you're working with popular people or you're interpreting for 14-year-old kids.
It's a living.
Very uncomfortable when they're asking if they can go around the back of the YMCA the next time they see you. And you're just like, do I have to say this? Yes, apparently I do.
God. Oh, man. Ethan goes with Zan. They stop above the manhole cover, which Declan marked. Open up a compartment in the car floor, pass through the manhole, go through themselves, and then blow up the car to make it seem like Owen Davian is dead.
Yeah, that was great. They have a very awkward "What's up with you?" Not much. "What's up with you?" conversation.
I
guess that was supposed to be funny.
I thought it was funny. I also like there's a nice, almost a cowboy switch, if you know what that is.
A cowboy switch? What's that?
Oh, well, it's usually used for stunts. Once you see them, it's hard not to see them. You'll have a stunt guy do a stunt, go behind something, the actor will pop out behind him.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that was what it was called.
It's all either called a cowboy switch or a switch. And you'll see them now I'm I hate that I could see them because it sort of ruins the effect for me. Especially in the old Sean Connerys. You'll see him, he'll do the ridiculous jump from a building and then pop behind these, what are those? I don't know, a bunch of pallets on top of each other. And then, out will Sean Connery come up. It's like, huh? Okay, good. So there's a switch here where you see Philippine Seymour Hoffman is starting to take off mask and he has some fake stuff, rubber or latex around his neck, and then you pan over to Zan as she's blowing the car, and then you go back to Ethan and he's pulling a mask off. So I was like, oh, what? That was a quick enough switch that if you weren't paying attention, you'd really buy it.
That's right. And that car explosion is enormous. If someone was standing next to it, they probably would have died. Classic IMF.
The team goes down the Tiber on a speedboat.
Very nice. Very well
thinking
executed.
that they all got away with it.
Yeah, and we're all really underestimating Davian here because he seemed like he went down pretty darn easily.
So Musgrave gets a message that they got Davian. He tells Brassel, and he's like, all right, and you were aware of this operation? Yes, I was, sir. Well, good job.
See, it would have been fine if they just told him in the first place. He didn't mind.
If it worked, sure. If it failed, then no.
Yeah, but that's true of all their missions.
Right. And also, in hindsight, it's potentially that Brassels has already come to the conclusion that there is someone working with Davian. And the question of, did you know about this, is Brassels' way to pull out, could it be Musgraves?
Yeah.
Could be.
I did not see Musgrave's betrayal coming at all, personally.
Let's keep going so we can get to it.
Uh-huh.
On the plane, Davian wakes up and Ethan is interrogating him, trying to get any intel about what the rabbit's foot is or who his buyers are.
Yep.
Davian starts threatening Ethan, asking if he has a wife or a girlfriend. He's I'm going to kill them in front. I'm going to find them. I'm going to hurt them, and then I'm going to kill you right in front of them.
Uh-huh.
He also brings up Lindsay and how what he did to her was fun. The combination of both those two things sets Ethan off, and Ethan hangs Davian out of a plane, starts cutting the wires that are tying him seat. And this is where, whose fault it is that Julia got kidnapped? It's not Ethan's fault. It's Luther's fault.
No, it's Ethan's fault. He went way over the line with this interrogation.
It's bad cop, good cop time, and and Luther is being the good cop but blows Ethan's cover. It's all Luther's fault.
Well, Luther is not an interrogator. I get that impression. He's the guy in the chair, to use the Spider-Man parlance.
Mm-hmm.
Though I do wonder if this scene was validating Luther's opinions that relationships are weakness, because Davian went after the two women that were most important in Ethan's life, and that's what causes Ethan to lose his cool.
It's a fair point. Although, I'm blaming Luther now, but he probably still would have found out because he has the mole in IMF.
Right. We get that information that Musgraves is the one who is a leaker.
Yeah.
Even
though he hang him out of a plane, Davian doesn't give him anything.
Because Damien knows it's a good guy, bad cop routine. And we already get told that Davian has been slowly getting cockier and cockier and cockier, and more brazen, and does not care because he knows he's going to outsmart or always get the upper hand at some point, which is why he's so cocky when doesn't expect to be taken at the Vatican, because he's already proven the fact that he could take out IMF agents.
Mm-hmm.
That's true.
Yep.
I interpreted that as just he's really hardcore and isn't going to break no matter what they do to him.
Right, but I think that part of that is because he's like Brassel says, he's been successful. Every time anyone goes after him, he knows he's going to get away with it. So he can be that cocky. He can be that hardcore because
it makes it a lot easier.
Yep. So they land and they put Davian in a very secure truck. Luther has decoded Lindsay's message. Apparently, she was tasked by Brassel to find Davian. And when she got close to the target, Davian got an encrypted transmission that she traced back to IMF to Brassel's office. And right as this revelation comes, we get a giant explosion behind.
So I knew this was going to happen as soon as I saw that bridge. That bridge was total license to kill vibe.
That bridge, which is the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which we almost went to for my bachelor party. We were very close by, but it was I just didn't have enough time to plan that into. All right. Also, what's to do on a bridge? We drive across and then come back.
You take a picture while you're driving across, I suppose.
Yeah. But we were very, very close by.
So this message coming from Brassel's office, are we supposed to interpret that to mean that Brassel is a traitor?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, then my question is A, why? And B, why? And C, if he is the traitor, why is he telling them to go after Davian?
Good cover.
If he's working with Davian.
Plausible deniability.
But again,
his episode.
But he doesn't send Ethan after Davian.
Yeah.
Well, okay, yeah, we already talked about that. But it's like if you're the head of the IMF, you're pretty powerful. You got a lot of prestige. I'm sure you're getting paid well. I don't understand why he would be a traitor. Like, what's the motive?
I mean, we'll get to that, or we'll get to what we reveal the actual traitor, which we've said many times, but I'm still gonna, not just stick to that, why he did it.
The whole idea of why would he send agents after him, Davian. One, because again, Lindsay thinks that she's being set up. Like, get rid of the one agent who has slowly been infiltrating. Okay, send her full born in, get her going, let them know, take her out of the equation.
Okay, yeah,
Yes.
that's fine.
So we get this whole big fight on the bridge. There's a drone that's coming after them, a chopper behind Ethan, explosions happening all around them, civilians. Like, one of the few times we see civilians and like collateral damage in one of these films, because they're always much more covert. And so you
that
see
lady's leg.
Yep. Yeah. So you actually see like the IMF helping out regular civilians. I was like, oh, that's, oh yeah, we never see this.
Yeah, they're like superheroes almost. There's also a part I like where Ethan does like a slide behind a car.
Yeah, sweet.
That was cool. And then the bad guys are breaking out Davian by spraying honey mustard sauce on the side of the truck.
I thought it was silly string. Whatever they were spraying basically makes the side of the truck brittle enough that they can break it with a hammer. They get him out. Ethan goes back to the truck that they were in to get a G36 rifle.
Yeah,
so he could shoot down the drone. What was stupid?
It was really stupid. You can't shoot down a drone with a rifle. Give me a break. Give me a break. No, I did not look it up for Spy Fact versus Fiction.
If I really wanted to, we could probably figure out the scale of this thing, but I'm not going to. I'm just saying it's plausible.
I mean, it's a big drone. You could definitely tell that it's like the width of 2 cars, easily 2 car lengths width, plus the main body. So, in theory, if you're a really good shot, you could. Plus that,
Ethan is.
Yeah, and the gun does shoot relatively large rounds, so large, powerful rounds, which is why it's specifically called out. So 1-2 shots could potentially take out a very flimsy wing.
It was not even just like one. He shoots a lot at it. So much so that when he's trying, well, first of all, the part where he's jumping across the whole huge gap in the bridge, that was apparently Tom Cruise can actually jump that length. He didn't actually do it over, the actual bridge, but he actually jumped that. Like, they built a portion of the bridge elsewhere, but he made the jump. I was like, damn.
It's not that hard.
Okay.
Okay, all right. But also, when
I did that in high school.
Oh, wait, you were a long jumper? I was never good enough for a long jump. Also, when he is getting the gun out of the truck, and then he's is running away because there's a missile that's about to hit it, and he smashes into another car, which is not done with real explosions, but I think with a wire that they used to pull him off to the side. He did it a bunch of times too.
Yeah, it looked really good.
Yeah,
it's gotta hurt every time, though.
Right? But anyways, I was saying, he uses so many bullets on the drone that when Davian is getting away and he lines up a shot, gun clicks, the chamber's empty.
Yeah, that was nice to see actual real life limitations, unlike certain Arnold Schwarzenegger movies where his M16 just keeps shooting and shooting and shooting.
Yeah.
That being said, though, it's just a chopper. That's pretty hard to disguise. I feel like he could have called the Coast Guard or something, been like, hey, this chopper just picked up this war criminal. Could you flag it down or something?
But 1, still just an instructor. 2, he's also committed war crimes.
Ethan has.
He just blew up a car in the Vatican.
Yeah.
But I think my point is this drone and TAC team attack is far from covert. How did they get away with it? The bad guys, that is.
They're that well connected. Also, here you keep suggesting that they call someone else to do this. We don't know what IMF's actual jurisdiction is, but I have a feeling it's similar to the CIA, where they're supposed to go everywhere else in the world, not on American soil. I don't actually know though. We don't know. We have no idea what their jurisdiction is.
It's a trope in Hollywood movies too. Why don't they just call the police? I guess that's another reason why Ethan Hunt is always going rogue, to explain why he can't just use the powerful resources of the IMF to solve the problem.
Yeah. So Ethan calls his home to check on Julia. That guy from what's his name? What's that?
Aaron Paul.
Name? Yeah, Aaron Paul. And her brother Rick answers, and apparently told someone else that Julia might be at the hospital.
Which is a totally normal answer to a question of someone who's looking for Ethan.
Right. But No, like even in nowadays, I'm like, would you like if unless you actually knew the person calling, would you tell someone where random person is?
I do think that in this age of cybersecurity, we've gotten a little bit more used to saying, "May I ask who's calling?" before giving out that information.
Yeah.
Plus, we already know that from the beginning that the brother isn't the most with
true.
it person.
Yep.
He's more of a carefree, go hard-esque personality, so he probably wouldn't really care.
No.
Plus, I mean, his sister's a nurse, so sure.
Maybe. Well, but they weren't looking
Or a
for
doctor.
her. They were looking for him.
Well, they ask where she is.
No, they ask where he is, and he says, "Well, Julia's at the hospitals, but she might know where, and she might know where he is."
Right.
It's like I don't have the answer, but I'll tell you what I do know to try to be helpful. Most people try to be helpful.
Anyway, so Ethan speeds off to the hospital, tries calling Julia. She's not answering. After she gets out of the shower, she gets tagged with a patch tranquilizer, basically.
Yeah, just a rub-on trank.
Says that was so matter-of-factly that it's. I'm wondering what part of his mysterious past he knows about this from.
I mean, it's basically certain drugs you just. Anyways, or ivermectin. They have ivermectin that you just rub on and it cures COVID.
Oh boy! Don't.
It's a whole thing.
God.
I found it funny in hindsight.
Yeah.
The fact that Ethan's calling all around to all these different phones. And today it would just be like ring, text. Like you wouldn't have you'd have to be like, oh crap, Google, hospital number. Which number is it? Phone tree. House number. Which one was the house? Okay. Wait, why are you? There's no house number. Let me call. Well, back then
it was a landline.
Yeah, back then it was just call the house. Endearing to my heart. But then I was like, oh my god, how quickly that changed from 2002 when everyone had a landline and you called the house, and the only way to get a hold of someone was to do that, to 2006. Like it was just a dramatic jump. That it was awkward to feel.
So funnily enough, 2006, same year that Casino Royale came out, where texting plays a major role in the plot.
The transition is so fast, but a lot of people still called rather than texting was still relatively new. It was only like the really big tech savvy people that did it. I mean,
also was expensive.
Yeah, expensive. But I mean, doctors at that time had pagers with texting. True. So, I mean, it was still a thing. It's just, which is why it makes me laugh even more so, the fact that he's calling all these numbers and all these people. And it's like.
Also, I just enjoyed Julia's reaction when she gets the patch, the rub-on trank. It's not the, what are you doing? It's a, what's that? And then passes out.
She's very trusting.
Yeah. She gets put on a gurney, and the near miss where basically he's going through the hospital, and like he runs into the gurney that has Julia on it and goes right past it. Because of course, why would you think that she's on a gurney? And that's when he gets a call from Davian. It wasn't immediate, but he was very focused on finding Julia more so than, all right, calling the Coast Guard to say, hey, there's this chopper.
That's fair. But again, there's a weakness. She's a point of vulnerability for him.
Yep. He gets a call from Davian, and Davian says, you have 48 hours to get me the rabbit's foot or Julia dies.
That's right. Time lock.
He's got to go. But of course, this is the moment that IMF chooses to roll up, and they were told to bring him in. He tries to run. This kind of reminded me of Minority Report, actually. That scene in Minority Report where it was like, everybody runs.
Great movie.
And unlike in that one where he gets away, this one, he gets tased and brought down.
So why are they arresting him?
Because he just blew up a thing in the Vatican. He's committing war crimes.
Also, he's
a rogue agent.
He's gone rogue. There's a whole. He ran away from the scene of a crime and also of Davian getting away instead of reporting into his IMF bosses.
But they had the earlier scene where Brassel and the other guy were like, "Oh, the operation's successful. Great." So why are they arresting him now? I guess in the next scene they try to say that he's being framed, just like he always is.
Yep.
But also, if Davian's behind it all, why would he give him 48 hours and then arrest him? Because it makes it harder for him to bring him the rabbit's foot.
Are you conflating two people?
Well, Davian and the other guy,
So
Billy Crudup.
Brassel is the one who got him arrested, not
Davian.
not
Davian is giving him 48 hours to find the rabbit's foot. Brassels knows that Ethan has gone rogue and probably is the reason why there's a car on fire in the Vatican. And so it goes to arrest him because he already suspects someone and now has an agent gone rogue, causing massive amounts of damage, and is only an instructor. They don't have insurance policies like that for instructors.
He didn't go rogue, though, because the deputy director knew about it. He asked him specifically, were you aware of this operation to get Davian? And he said yes.
But it wasn't authorized.
It was unauthorized. Also, what's his face?
None of us know Billy Crudup's character's name.
I do have it, but I forgot it for a second.
Musgrave.
Musgrave
is his name, yes.
Yeah, Musgrave was lying out of his ass right there that he knew about it. So it was a completely rogue operation.
Well, Musgrave and Davian are working together, okay? That's established later in the movie. Yeah. So my interpretation is that Musgrave is framing Ethan.
No.
Not at this point. At this point, Musgraves is just strictly focused on saving Davian.
Oh, that's true, because later he helps him escape.
Yeah.
This whole thing still doesn't make a lot of sense.
No, Brassel takes him in because he's gone rogue, also left the scene of the crime, and wants answers, and also he's already pissed off at Ethan before, so now that's why he gives him this 5-star treatment here.
All right, audience, write in on our social media if you can make heads or tails of what's going on here, but we can move on.
All right, so he's brought back to IMF headquarters. He's muzzled, is being interrogated by Brassel. Brassel reviewed the tapes and found out that Lindsay wanted to tell him something off comms. Okay, hey, there's your answer. Because Lindsay was trying to tell him something, he now has more suspicions about Ethan and doesn't want any rogue agent running around his organization.
This also doesn't make sense because he's asking questions to Ethan, and Ethan literally cannot answer them because he's
not really asking. He's
accusatory,
asking rhetorical questions and also being accusatory.
He's like, I
read the eyes. I mean,
he's like, I guess I'll get the answers later.
Yeah,
is the idea.
If Ethan could read lips, Brassels can read eyes.
There's blue eyes of Tom Cruise.
Does he have blue eyes? I actually don't know.
Whatever.
Musgrave talks to Ethan next, and he's making this whole big show about how he agrees with Brassel, but then in between, when he's shouting things at Ethan about how terrible he is, he's doing the thing which I'm pretty sure would not be possible, is reading lips from when you're not actually speaking and just mouthing words.
Jay?
How plausible is that?
I mean, the mouth shape you can still mock, so you can talk. I can still do it without actually making noise.
But
you don't get the problem is normally you have to have a point of context to be able to then start and filter down what words choices would be used and in what capacity, which is why it's so difficult because vast.
Right.
They're all contextually you would have to have some sort of idea. I guess in this context, Musgraves and Ethan have known each other for a long time, and he understands that he's not hearing anything, so he's probably getting intel of. So maybe that contextual ability helps, but it's potentially possible.
Okay,
unlikely, but possible.
All right.
I imagine names is tougher too.
Names and also street names in Shanghai. That's what I was like. Wait, I can understand, read lips and general words, but when you're naming a specific street name in a different language, that's where I'm like, that's a bridge too far.
Super spy, Ethan Hunt. Yeah.
So he also slips him a knife and it says, take him to a holding cell. And then as he's being taken in the elevator, we get this nice fight. Ethan gets out and knocks out all the guards.
Good stuff.
Brassel finds out and then announces that he's on the loose. And then as soon as he lets go of the button, he hears another voice, which sounds like his. And it's Ethan imitating his voice and saying, level 7 lockdown or something.
This is absurd. I'm sorry. I will
Okay.
not let this go. They know that he has access to voice changers. They know that voice changer technology exists. So why don't they do the Star Trek thing where security lockdown, code Brassel 00 Alpha 0? I mean, come on. They're supposed to be the best spy agency on the planet. And I am not done. There's one other thing I want to add where he's like, we can't stop him. There's nothing we can do. He's holding down the transmit button. Are you freaking kidding me with that?
Let me address that one.
Oh boy, here we go. Let's go.
That 100% was accurate in 2006. I had to drive from DC all the way to the southern tip of North Carolina, and this idiot had his walkie-talkie pressed up against the wall, the door, and all we heard was heavy metal the entire way. And the walkie-talkies were meant to talk about when we needed to stop for gas, and everyone was just like, we had to keep driving past each other to wave at each other, and like kid was not paying attention. 4.5 hours. I wanted to we all ended up having to turn off our walkie-talkies. And when we stopped and get gas, we all changed our channels. He did the same thing again, ruined it again.
Okay, Jay, I am sorry for your loss, but this is not a walkie-talkie. This is the internal security system of the Impossible Mission Force.
Using walkie-talkies.
They are literally using like two-way radios, yeah.
Well, then that's stupid too.
I mean, those were a big thing in 2006, actually.
I had like the ones that are really expensive and you can go 2 miles, have 2 miles worth of range and all that. Yeah, no, they were all people who drove long distance had them. It was, it was a big thing back then. And that was the major drawback, which is why walkie-talkies at that time had 10 channels you could alternate to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Changing but the if channel. You don't know to change the channel, then you don't change the channel.
Yeah, if he's holding down the transmit button, real Musgrave can't get on there to say change to channel whichever.
Yeah. Brassels had just spoken and given a command, and then immediately after then goes, wait, hold on, new information. There's no reason to doubt it.
Unless you're standing right next to Brassel.
Right. Question, is he using a voice changer?
That I was about to say. He's just mimicking it.
Oh.
When he was coming up in the ranks of IMF, there was no voice patches. He had to do it all by himself and mimic stuff. So that's just why you get Foghorn Leghorn Ethan Hunt in the first movie talking about, I was going to try to name a line from that movie where he's as the senator from Virginia.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's all good.
Yeah. But it's only in the second one where you introduce those and makes it more believable that he can't mimic everyone.
All right, let's move on. I think I made my point. I think we've all made our points here.
Anyway, so I'm going to mention the video a little bit more because I just enjoy. He's crawling around IMF headquarters, and IMF headquarters is located directly under the Virginia Department of Transportation.
Ooh,
that's perfect.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's perfect for his cover and everyone else's covers apparently. But I'm just like, I enjoy that they
actually did it.
Actually put it right underneath. And so you see when he comes out, all these like brochures of VDOT are like falling over.
And all these actual employees are like,
wait, what? Who's this guy? Puts the radio right next to a stereo that's playing We Are Family. And it's a great moment where I always forget which one's diegetic and which one's non-diegetic.
I think diegetic is the one where it's explained.
Okay, so non-diegetic or diegetic music becomes non-diegetic. So they have it on the radio and then becomes the actual soundtrack briefly as he's running away.
Yeah, then he pulls a Batman and can get to Shanghai.
I mean, I'm going to bring back the first movie again, and, where they're trying to chase him and how many different identities thinks he has in how many countries. So it is established that he can do this.
No, I know. A lot of people had a problem with Batman doing that. I was not one of them.
Going back to that conversation, Kittredge is even like in the first movie, he's like, what Kittredge is even like, what do you want us to do? Put a guy at the airport? And that's exactly what they do here. And Kittredge is right. They don't work because he is, to us as the audience, okay, we can tell it's still Tom Cruise. But if you're looking for Ethan Hunt with short hair and all that, you don't see him as this Czech guy that I wish I'd written down the fake name that he had.
Oh,
yeah,
Wapko or something like that.
Something very Czech.
It was a good disguise. I dug it.
Yeah, so he goes to the airport, gets to Shanghai, gets into the apartment, searches it, doesn't find anything. but he hears something at the door, and it's Luther who he almost stabs.
Yeah, he says, "Just don't kill me," which I like that. I thought it was very like real, as opposed to like Ethan, it's me. So the whole team is there.
Yep.
Why?
Why wouldn't
Musgrave told them about it, and they went to help him.
But he's rogue, and they know he's rogue.
Well, yes, one Musgrave is, yeah.
Yeah, Luther is fine, because Luther is loyal to him. The others, I don't know. They worked with him like once.
That we know of.
A team.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. These agents are very loyal to him, is what I'm getting at. They really follow him through thick and thin.
Ethan Hunt, like we'll get to it later in the later movies, but he's a legend at IMF.
He gets the final say whether or not someone passes or fails their test.
Yeah, his reputation is given how many times he's been framed. Although this is only by this point the second time he's been framed and gone rogue. But the fact that he's, most of the time he's going to be in the right, so you trust him.
That also doesn't make sense, but I'm not in the mood for another argument about that. So,
anyway, so
basically, he's like the rabbit's foot. We need to do another daring stunt, high flying, high wire theft.
Yeah. So I like this. So there's again no access to the ground, and of course he asks about the roof. And Luther even makes a mention of Langley, like Langley was a cakewalk compared to this. So I like this where he sees the buildings outside in the window, starts drawing on the window, and gets the idea of to do a fulcrum from one building to the other to get on there. He starts doing actual physics. I was studying engineering at the time this movie came out. I was looking at his equations, like, that's actually the right equation for how to do this. I don't remember any of it now, but I was like, that is the right equation. It's like, all right, Ethan Hunt knows advanced physics. Great.
Who says math isn't useful in day-to-day life?
But yeah, so Luther brings up the very important point of we have no idea what the rabbit's foot is, and you're just going to give it his head. He's like, oh, no, of course I'm not going to give this. We'll tag it and trace it.
Yeah, and I also like the part where the team says, we're in.
Of course we're in.
As if they were just going to all turn around and go home.
Well, I mean, it's a suicidal, ridiculously incompetent plan in their mind.
That's what they do.
To be fair, the only one who's really tempting suicide is Ethan.
Yeah. And would you want to watch someone die? Especially the
legendary
legend?
Ethan Hunt? No.
I mean, I would. I'd be like, I guess I'm doing this. I was there on his last mission.
Zen and Declan are on another roof. They're launching baseballs at that roof to distract the guards.
What?
Ethan...
Just what? I can't even.
Ethan runs off the roof in the other direction as far as he can, jumps, gets pulled by the fulcrum.
Just like in Fast and the Furious 9.
With the cars, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
They swing the car. So
I forgot about that.
So I take it Tom Cruise did this stunt in real life?
Yes and no. He did this on a green screen, but I think he actually did the motion of it.
Okay, just not 50 stories in the air.
If they made this movie today, 100% he'd be doing this for real.
Yeah, rip your back and groin. Gosh.
Yeah, so he swings. The best part is like when he reaches the top and disconnects and falls.
And falls right on top of that one pane of glass that breaks. Yeah. It doesn't shatter. You just see it crack.
Yeah, he shoots the two guards. Those poor guards just doing their job. Maybe he shoots them with a trank.
It looks like a trank. Mm-hmm. There's a distinctive sound for tranks in this world, and it sounded like that. It didn't sound like a gunshot.
Yeah. So this stunt was like something I saw Jackie Chan do once, where he was like sliding down a building.
I think it was inspired by that, actually.
Yeah, and he barely makes it, but he does, and it's pretty darn sweet.
So this is, when I first watched this movie, this was the one thing I got annoyed at, because I wanted to see the heist. I wanted to see him break into it, and we see none of it.
It was really weird. Did they run out of money or something?
No, it's just classic J.J. Abrams, like, I'm not going to show you the thing that you want to see.
Well, I mean, this was J.J.'s first director?
Yep, it was his first his directorial debut.
So, I mean, if it had bombed, maybe he would have changed his attitude about doing that and actually started showing things. But hey, we missed our chance.
I just feel like it would have been a good opportunity for a comedy bit, like a Three Stooges type thing, where he runs in and you hear bam, 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 and then he jumps out the window and runs away down the street.
Well, it's more that focusing on Declan and Zen in the van, and we find out it's been 12 minutes, even though he said, I'll see you guys in 5 minutes. And also, it's only 5 minutes until they kill Julia.
That's right.
There's 12 minutes left, and then as he's going, at some point he says, I'm going in if you don't hear from me in 5 minutes. But then, like, 5 minutes later, you hear, hey, he still has 5 minutes. And you're like, wait, what?
So it was 12 minutes since it went in, but 5 minutes till Julia. So it's
5 minutes to get out
of
of the building, gives them 2 minutes to get in the car and call. The math works out, everybody.
I'm not worried about it.
Anyway,
so as Zen and Declan are about to have a touching moment talking about a prayer that she was gonna teach him, Ethan jumps out of a window, opens his chute, but it's too low, flies around Shanghai, and is dangling from a light pole.
This is also where we get for the first time to see the rabbit's foot.
Yes. Yeah.
Pulls it out to check on it. We see a biohazard sticker on it for some reason.
Remember Operation Spy? When we got the nuclear bomb or the nuclear material? It looked like that.
Maybe they just reused the props, changed the color. So he pulls it out and he's just like, instead of undoing his harness, so he can walk out the door.
He just checks on it. What are you exchanging for your wife? Yeah, check it.
He has 2 hands.
True. Could have gotten out of that harness and walked out of there. But instead, got pulled out again and is hanging from the light pole, almost gets hit by a truck, loses the rabbit's foot in a game of Frogger.
The truck is an 18-wheeler and it jackknifes. It's not that he almost gets hit by it.
Oh.
I feel like there definitely would have been civilian casualties. We just didn't see them.
Yeah, probably.
Well, the truck didn't explode.
No, that's true.
Well, it didn't explode, but it did a crazy crash.
Well, it doesn't. We don't see it actually crash. We just see the trailer of it just
jackknife. Yeah.
In theory, you smash the gas. It's not likely you could save it, but I mean,
it's all. I don't know.
I mean, it's also Shanghai, so traffic doesn't move all that fast.
I was wondering about that because as he's going, as the only one of us who's actually been to Shanghai, as he's like trying to get through the cars, they don't look like they're going that fast. And I was like, is that because they drive slower there, or because it was slowed down so that he could actually safely get through?
Probably a little bit of both.
Yeah.
Their traffic is just atrocious. It's just really bad. And if you're not on the highway, you're not really speeding. Like, if you're not on the major highway, you don't really speed too much. So it's potentially that. I mean, like, it kind of threw me off watching it now, having been to Shanghai.
Oh, right, yeah.
The fact that how sparse the population was.
I can see that.
There's a lot of space. I'm very confused.
I noticed that definitely when he's like trying to go in between the cars. Like, and even Carolyn, when she was watching it, was like, okay, yes, he's still dodging between traffic, but they don't look like they're going that fast.
Again, I feel like that would be a potential comedy bit where he's dodging the cars, but they're going very slowly. The whole MacGuffin chasing all rolls away, I thought that was a little bit silly. There was so little time left, I guess, probably contributed to that.
Yeah. And so he almost gets hit by a car, but of course, and it stops just in time. And of course, in the car is Luther and everyone else.
Yep.
And we find out that building security has found them, and they're pissed off, and they're trying to chase them.
I like the way he says it, like building security. Ooh, scary.
Yeah.
We get another car chase here. There's a car that flips, and I think it explodes.
All the while, he's trying to get through to Davian to actually tell him that he's got the rabbit's foot. By the time he does a sweet move where he leans out of the car to shoot at the tires of the car chasing them. And when they finally get through, Ethan only had 5 seconds left. Tells them to go to a train yard, come alone. Afterwards, he calls Musgrave, tells him the tag number, tells him to, find him.
Yeah, this was really good. He has, the tag, and the tag has the signal. They trace the signal. He says, if you don't hear back from me in 8 hours, send an army. I was like, first of all, why 8 hours? Second of all, I want to see that army. Do you guys feel like this movie was made on a slightly lower budget than maybe some of the other ones?
Well, so here's the thing. Coming off of MI2, which I think if you don't adjust for inflation, is still the highest grossing of the films. They had the money and they wanted to make this movie for a while. I think they even swapped places with, I think it was supposed to come out earlier, but when Tom Cruise and Steven Spielberg were both available, they made I'm trying to remember if it was War of the Worlds or Minority Report, one of the two. Like instead of making this one, he like had to swap the order of his filming. So they wanted this one to come out. It's not like 2 was,
So the budget was 150 million.
Yeah.
Mission Impossible 2 was 125 million.
Okay.
Ghost Protocol is 140 million.
Okay. So
and
just
Rogue was 150. So it was still a high budget film. I think a lot of that was probably getting the rights to film in China.
That's fair. Yeah.
I guess the big set piece was more in the beginning with the choppers chasing each other through the wind turbines.
Yeah.
And the CGI back then was crazy expensive.
Oh, yeah, that would make sense too. Yeah. Goes to the train yard, gets picked up by a limo, is told to drink this liquid, and
no questions asked.
Yep. Wakes up and is injected with the bomb through the nasal cavity, and they replay the beginning.
Yeah. Well, in the words of Fight Club, I think this is where we came in. But this is different this time. Because this time, we know that Ethan did have the rabbit's foot when he got in the limo. So what is up with that?
Luther and the team land back in the States, and Brussels and a bunch of armed guards are there.
Yeah.
But yeah, so this whole replay of it is truncated. So we thankfully don't have to watch the entire scene again, but we get, the highlights of it.
Right.
Count to 10. At 10, Davian shoots Julia. So she's just there, like tied up, feet away from Ethan with her head down.
And if you hadn't seen the later movies, I would believe that she actually could have been dead for real.
When I first saw this, I was shocked. I was like, whoa, they actually killed her? Damn. The reveal, which, we've spoiled throughout this entire podcast, who the actual mole is. It's not Brassel, it's Musgrave.
Yes. So Musgrave's evil, and he explains that it wasn't Julia who was killed, it was actually just an underling.
Not just any it was a translator. Yeah, the interpreter.
The interpreter.
And she failed him. It's like a classic James Bond villain thing. You failed me for the last time. But I guess the idea is they shot her in front of Ethan to like rattle Ethan.
No, it's to prove like there was no. So what he says is that we couldn't just open the canister. The only way to know that this was the real rabbit's foot is if basically you do this, and so that you believe that your wife is actually going to be killed, so that we know that this is the real thing.
Yeah, because he's already proven that he'll lie. He tells him that it's in Paris. He tells him blah, blah, blah. So because if they had killed him and his response was, meh, they'd be like, okay. But seeing him break, you know that he was like wholeheartedly going at it.
I like how they did it with the mask reveal, though, because he's like pulling off the duct tape on the mask, but it pulls with it the mask, so he just tears it open.
Yeah, it really showcases the difference in technology of early IMF versus current. Like current mask probably would be able to hold up, like the adhesion to the skin wouldn't pull away, and it would be duct tape. It would be okay, but this was.
I think the idea of them battling someone who also has access to their own technology is interesting. I would have liked to have seen more of that.
Well, actually, we got to it last movie, and you're like, I hate this. There are too many masks.
It depends on the way they use the mask. Like the way they use the mask to make you think that a character is another character only to be pulled out. I think that's kind of dumb. I liked it better when they were.
That's the purpose of the masks.
I'm not explaining my position very well.
They just did with the interpreter.
We can go back and listen to my thoughts on Mission Impossible 2. I explained it better then.
If you haven't listened to it, please go listen.
Oh yes, please do. It's fun.
They're like, what was Lindsay's message? We need information.
Did she go for it? Did she believe me?
Yeah. So it seemed to me like Musgrave was trying to make it look like Brassel was the bad guy.
Yes.
He calls him an affirmative action poster boy. That aged very well. And then he goes into a thing about his motives, which I didn't quite understand. Maybe you guys can help me out here.
What he says is that Davian is, if you get rid of him, 2 more will pop up in his place. Whereas if you use him, contacts in his network to get what you actually want to go after, rather than him, you can get all these things that you want. He gives the example of how they'll trace it to who their buyer is, send an army in, and then they'll do what America does best: infrastructure. Hold up, when was 2006? This is oh boy.
It was a thing. It hurt to listen to. Infrastructure and basically blow up the sand people.
Yeah.
And
He said, when
build
the
up
sand
infrastructure.
settles, I was like, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no.
And then in the
Good
end,
old
democracy wins.
America.
Yeah. So what's unclear about the reason, his motivations here?
It just was a little bit convoluted. I liked it better when it was just budget cuts.
Again, throwing back to Hudson Hawk. Oh no, not Hudson Hawk. That was Longest Goodnight.
The Longest Goodnight. Yes,
That's
another
right.
previous episode. Everyone's issue is their first issue or whatever. However that expression goes. Yeah, my next note is Chomp. Then chomps his hand.
Before he can say anything, he wants proof of life of Julia. Gets him to hold the phone up to his ear, call Julia. Asks for what's the name of the lake, Lake Wanaka, and then as soon as he gets that, he bites down on the hand, grabs a pen,
and escapes.
Uses it to get out of the handcuffs. Actually, fairly plausible.
I like that fact that he has to hold up the phone because back then speakerphone wasn't on those.
Or they were terrible speakerphones. I remember speakerphones back then.
Yeah. So he grabs the phone, calls Benji, has Benji trace location of the last call. Benji is apprehensive, but this is Ethan Hunt, legendary Ethan Hunt. All right, you know what?
Willing to lose your job for him.
Yep.
Yeah. And then there's so much running. He just runs and runs and runs and runs.
He says he's a mile away. Benji guides him. We have, I think, the shot where he's running alongside the river is before Fallout, the longest shot of Tom Cruise running in and maybe in I don't know if it's like in film of the longest shot of someone running, but it is the longest shot of Tom Cruise running.
It is long. It is of Tom Cruise running.
When he finally gets to the building, he sees a bunch of old Chinese men playing mahjong, and they see him and point him in the direction.
He crashes through a window, and then there's a lot of fighting here.
As soon as he kills those men, he finds Julia, and he's about to get Julia out, get the reveal that the bomb has been activated. Davian is right behind him. He's probably got 4 minutes left if he's lucky.
So this was great. Do you guys remember that he had the explosive in his head before it got turned on?
Yes.
Because in all the excitement, I had forgotten.
He had the huge red snot.
Oh, that's true. He did have that.
So this scene was great because I actually think Philip Seymour Hoffman is probably one of the best villains of the series.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he was just an amazing actor to begin with. But
that helps too.
He plays his part very well. But I mean, again, it is Philip Seymour. He plays basically his own kind of nonchalant but kind of devious self.
Mm-hmm.
Like you could always feel like a little bit of threat from him.
Yeah, there's a sinister thing to him. Yeah.
Well, this fight also felt like a Batman fight, where normally Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is kind of out of shape. He probably wouldn't be able to defeat Ethan normally, but with the explosive in his head giving him like migraines or whatever. It's like when the Joker does that thing to Batman's like glasses so he can't see and then is able to fight him in the Dark Knight. It's like that.
But yeah, so he beats him up. They roll outside and Davian is hit by a car.
Yeah, didn't the bad guy in Mission Impossible 1 die pretty much the same way on top of a train? Oh, that was Speed. Never mind.
I'm taller.
Yeah, that's it. That wasn't a good enough death for Davian. I felt like he should have had something more dramatic.
Yeah.
But that's the nature of this movie, I guess, is that it's much smaller scale.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's much more personal.
Yeah, and basically called out in like 3 times considering how often Ethan has to dive underneath a truck.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
This movie, he does it like 3 times, I think.
Ethan goes back inside. He's looking for a defibrillator. Doesn't find any. And Julia is very confused. Like, what's going on? Who are these? Why are they trying to kill you? And like pulls some plugs out of the walls. Like, all right, this will work. And walks Julia through how to work the Beretta, which gave me a sort of like, oh, so this is how he was as a teacher. Probably it's like, okay, he was pretty good.
I must say, Julia takes all this in stride. She doesn't freak out at all.
She's probably at the point where she's already freaked out. I feel like he says something like, just you trust me. I'm going to tell you everything, but we need to do this first.
Yeah, I mean, how else more can she be freaked out? She's just been tied to a chair as people threatened her.
48 hours at least. Yeah.
For 48 hours with guns all around her. Plus, she already suspects some shady shit from Ethan. She's a doctor, so she's not she's okay with like blood and stuff.
She's a nurse, I think.
Or close enough. Yeah.
I mean, no discredit to nurses, but yeah, just to be clear.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it's just muscle memory, or it's just mechanics at that point.
Yeah.
I just can't help but my mind just goes back to Cameron Diaz in Night and Day, who just runs around and screams the whole time.
Yeah.
They have the electric switch, this gigantic switch.
It looks like something you're activating to, bring Frankenstein back to life, which ironically, yeah, kind of. So
Yeah, or operating tables.
Frankenstein's monster.
Yeah. Tell us, all right, you have to turn it on and off. Don't forget the off. It surprised me when he bites through the wood that he had.
Yeah, it was great
in his mouth. I was like,
it
oh
felt
wow, it felt visceral.
Yeah, it was pretty darn intense. And then he does die. It's like on the operating table, you were dead for 5 minutes or whatever.
Yeah. Other men do come. Julia takes Ethan's advice, stays low. She actually she's good. She uses reflective surfaces to see where they're coming from. I think it was only 2 guys, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So she I think he says that the Beretta 92F has 15 bullets, is what she said. So she uses 15, so it's not just a lucky it's not just a very, accurate shot. She uses 15 bullets to get that one guy.
She uses the Ethan Hunt versus drone technique. Because she leaves herself with how many bullets?
No, she has to reload. She reloads.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
So she uses all 15 on one guy. And then Musgrave comes in and she's already low. So she's basically just on her back firing at him. And he dies. And the rabbit's foot rolls out of its case right into frame.
Yeah, I kept expecting it to turn on and then start shooting poisonous gas everywhere, but not this time. It's not like the grenade from before.
Yeah. So once they're dead, she uses CPR to resuscitate Ethan. As it's going, there's some what I would describe as sad music. Even though Ethan's going to be back, it's just to try to trick you that he might actually be dead, because she's using CPR and it's keeps going, but he's not reviving. She starts pounding on his chest, and once in a moment of just shock, he bursts to life. I like how his first instinct, grab the gun. Oh wait, what's going on?
Naturally.
And then he actually sees all around and says to Julia, "You did this? Wow."
I just pictured the meme of the kid at the computer with the thumbs up.
Yeah, it's all good. You're not getting any brain damage from that.
Yeah. So Ether tells her the truth about him. Bios, that he works for the IMF, and so what does that stand for? Impossible Mission Force, and she just laughs at it.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of meta joke. Not too much, but it's fine.
And we go back to IMF headquarters, where Brasso gives him an envelope, and which has a piece. It's not a small envelope, so I was like, "Is this a check? What is this?"
Well, what was it?
We don't know. No, he would never find out what it is. It's just a paper. Maybe it's a commendation. I don't know.
Maybe it's sorry for arresting you and almost getting your wife killed.
It's a picture of Dick Butt.
He does say that the president has a job that he wants him to do, so maybe it's details about that.
Right. Oh no, that's separate. He said also the White House.
Oh yeah,
is it? Yeah. Well, first I just want to go on my honeymoon, and then he's asking, "Well, what was the rabbit's foot? What was it?" And he says, "Well, I'll tell you if you promise to come back." And he just smiles, laughs, and leaves. And Julia gets to meet the team, and then they walk off into the sunset.
So do you think him going on a honeymoon is a callback to him going on vacation in 2?
Maybe.
I mean, he does. He goes off into the sunset to a beach with his lady friend.
His latest love interest, yeah.
And with that, we get the end of the movie and the Mission Impossible theme and the credits. And also, if you listen to the entire credits, as I did, you hear Kanye West's song Impossible at the very end. And then his version of the Mission Impossible theme, which he orchestrated himself, which is actually pretty good, but doesn't appear anywhere on the soundtrack, sadly.
So it's the Mission Impossible theme with words, right? I think we've talked about that.
No.
Oh, no.
So the Impossible is a song that he did, and he had a few other people on, who guested on it, but it doesn't use any of the theme. And then there's a separate song, which is just it's just the Mission Impossible theme, but orchestrated with Kanye beats.
I see, like a remix.
Yeah. Because I remember when this movie came out, there was a big announcement that Kanye was going to rework the Mission Impossible theme. You remember that, Jay?
Yes, I remember that.
And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm excited, cool. And then they don't even use it until like the last minute of the credits.
I guess they didn't like it.
Yeah, but they must have been like contractually obligated to put it somewhere, so they did.
Yeah, I don't remember what ended up being the reasons, but it was a thing.
All right, so that is the movie. Now it is time for our spy fact versus fiction. I have some. Do you?
I have some, so why don't you go for a sec?
There's a part when Benji is trying to help Ethan where he says, I'm going to lose my citizenship over this.
Oh, boy.
Which I thought was kind of a weird thing to say, because he said I was going to help criminal number one or something. So I looked up, can dual citizens have a security clearance and work at places like the IMF? Okay. So according to the website of Kalajarvi, Kuzi, Newman, and Fitch, which is a law firm, they say, according to new adjudicative guidelines from June 2017, foreign involvement raises concerns about an individual's judgment, reliability, and trustworthiness when it is in conflict with U.S. national interests or when the individual acts to conceal it. But by itself, the fact that a U.S. citizen is also a citizen of another country is not disqualifying without an objective showing of such conflict or attempt at concealment. So apparently, it used to be that having a dual citizenship was an obstacle, if not outright disbarring.
It still technically is an obstacle. You can do it as long as the wording on that is interesting. So you can do it, depending on what level of clearance you want. The higher you go, you have to give up your dual citizenship.
I was going to say, do we know that Benji has dual citizenship?
We don't think so.
I was just going to say that he maybe just
he might have been naturalized.
So that would be less of a conflict for him then.
Yeah, then they could just go, you help the terrorists, which is a valid reason for them to revoke your immigration rights, and then they kick you out. To respond, yes, that statement that you read is correct to a degree. There is still some gray areas of awkwardness.
I mean, there always is with this kind of thing. So the other thing I have is that Philip Seymour Hoffman's character reminded me of another character that I've read about named Abdul Qadir Khan. So my article is Abdul Qadir Khan, nuclear hero for Pakistan, villain to the West, from Al Jazeera. So Khan is considered a hero in his native Pakistan because he was instrumental in developing their nuclear program, bringing them up to par with their rival India. And how did he accomplish that? Well, he was charged with stealing a blueprint for uranium centrifuges from the Netherlands while working for an nuclear engineering consortium, bringing it back to Pakistan in 1976. And then when he got there, then PM Bhutto put Khan in charge of the government's uranium enrichment program. He was involved with that. In 1978, his team had enriched uranium, and by 1984, they were ready to detonate a nuclear device. Khan later said in a newspaper interview, and then they performed a test in 1998, kind of like in Parmanu, a previous episode. Pakistan got hit with international sanctions and its economy went into free fall after their test. But then Khan found himself at the center of controversy when he was accused of illegally proliferating nuclear technology to such charming characters as Iran, Libya, and North Korea. He was accused by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Khan was placed under effective house arrest in Islamabad in 2004 after he admitted to running a proliferation network to the three countries. And then he died in October 2021 at the age of 85 of COVID-19.
Oh,
that's right.
Wow.
So he was not hit by a truck while battling a secret agent in real life.
So for spy fact versus spy fiction, what I've got. So Ethan Hunt's statement, and I was going to use this from one of my quotes, but I'm just going to use it here, where he says, you hit the brakes for a second, just tap on them on the freeway. You can literally track the ripple effect of that action across a 200-mile stretch of road because traffic has a memory. It's amazing. It's like a living organism. That quote is so accurate that author Tom Vanderbilt incorporated that as a... What do you call that? One of those quotes at the beginning of a book?
Oh, I don't know. That's a good question.
Not the preface, but
whatever that's called. He uses that as one for a chapter in his book Traffic: Why We Drive the Way We Do. And so it is literally, I think it's the only time where Mission Impossible is quoted in a book. like that. So we mentioned it briefly. One of the things that Ethan was training Lindsay on was eskrima, which is a Filipino style of martial arts, usually using 2 sticks. Also can use blades or 1 stick or 1 blade, or even open hand techniques. Famously, you can also use it with a lot of everyday objects, like in the Bourne films. I was trying to watch the pattern that she was doing when she was training. It looked like it's called a sinawali, which you do with 2 sticks. But I wasn't quite. I couldn't, because it's only you only see it kind of very briefly. But I'm pretty sure that is.
It did look like it.
Yeah, a microdot. Obviously, are familiar with the term microdot because we use it for some of our episodes. But what a microdot is a text or image substantially reduced in size to prevent detection by unintended recipients. They're usually circular. They can be about the size of a typographical dot, such as a period. Generally, they're not magnetic. That is much more advanced technology than most microdots. Usually, they're just words, and you can use them. You can create them. Like in the Spy Museum, like they have kits. They have like a section where they show a kit for it, which of course I think it was a Russian version, so it didn't involve using vodka.
I knew it was the size of a period.
Yeah. This is a really cool one. The phrase that the poem that they use. So the producers actually, I think it was who was it? I think it was Roberto Orsi, one of the writers, actually contacted a linguist to create that poem. So they would actually have every allophone, which is a sound in the English language. So it's supposed to incorporate every single allophone in that poem. And she also wanted to make it an iambic pentameter. But they changed the words around a little bit as they were going, so they don't actually have all of the allophones in there. But I thought it was really cool that they actually, instead of just making up a phrase, they actually went to a linguist and said, hey, can you make something that would actually make this feasible, seemingly? I've got 2 more things. Ethan gets a call from the post office. Address is Mr. Kelvin. Rather than being a reference to the temperature, is actually J.J. Abrams' mother's maiden name. That's why we have.
I was wondering about that.
The Kelvin appearance here. We have the Kelvin, USS Kelvin in the Star Trek movies.
Yeah, it really works.
Yeah. I mean,
I think she was named after something scientific.
Lastly, so if you noticed in the last fight scene when he has the bomb going off in his head, he starts grabbing his head, but starts using his elbows. That is actually called from a fighting style called Kisi fighting method, or KFM. It also may look familiar to you because it is the fighting method that Christian Bale utilizes in The Dark Knight and all Batman movies. Also, Tom Cruise uses it in the first Jack Reacher film and uses various aspects of it in Fallout in the bathroom fight.
Yeah. That's right. I never would have occurred to me.
Yeah, but so it's like wait, but it's very it is designed to protect your head, so it makes sense as he's having those things, he's going to be holding his head anyways, so he switches into that fighting style. All right, and that's what I've got for Spy Fact versus Spy Fiction.
All right, now it's time for our favorite quotes. Jay, as our guest, would you like to go first?
So I had one which was Declan, and it's when they're pulled over on the side of the road. And he just goes, well, now we've pissed off every Italian in Rome. Go do whatever you have to do.
Yeah, that Italian arguing scene was great.
And okay, I'll be back. I just thought that was hilarious. And the way he actually says it is, he has a good portrayal of that part. Other ones that I really like are Declan.
Or Declan.
Yeah. When he goes, please, when do I not copy? All I do is copy. And then his call back later when Zen knocks him and goes, all I do is copy. So I just really, there was a lot more dialogue things that I liked rather than.
I mean, it is a J.J. Abrams movie.
Yeah, rather than one-off lines. But yeah, I'm good with that for right now.
All right, Zach.
The first scene with Lawrence Fishburne's character, Russell.
There's so many good lines.
I assume someone else would say this one.
Yeah, they came Fast and Furious. The ones that jump to mind is this is intelligence, but so far I haven't seen any.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And please don't interrupt me while I'm asking rhetorical questions.
That was my
Yeah,
favorite out of his.
Yeah.
Should be my catchphrase for this podcast. Later on, Luther says, he made it. I knew he'd make it. A couple more. Ethan gives Julia the gun, says, here's a Beretta. Don't point at me. She says, sorry. And then finally, right at the beginning, when he's talking about traffic, he walks away. Greg Grunberg sighs, and two women say, I'd marry him. I would too. And
so,
Christian?
I got a few Brassel lines as well. And it's unacceptable that chocolate makes you fat, but I've eaten my share, and guess what?
Totally unacceptable.
Or he's a goddamn invisible man. Wells, not Elson, in case you want to be cute again. Benji is the maybe it's not a code word, maybe it's a really expensive money appendage.
Maybe.
I think I said this one earlier, but now I'm out. I was like, I remembered that line, but I forgot where it was from, and I remember like talking about it with someone at one point. I was like, I know there's a scene in a movie where they've only got one bullet left, and there's like, all right, they make the shot and say, now I'm out.
What could it be?
From Luther, there's a point where bold becomes stupid.
That's right.
Lastly, I'm gonna die unless you kill me. Turn it on and off. Don't forget the off.
Don't forget the off, or he'll light on fire like in the Green Mile.
All right, but before we move on, I want to talk about something that I forgot to talk about during the Spy Fact versus Fiction, which was, so this is 2006, so this is right around the time of the alternate reality games.
Oh, God.
The alternate reality games.
Like promotional stuff that would happen for movies. For example, the biggest one being during the Dark Knight, right before the Dark Knight, you had, this whole website that was devoted, and you were trying to plot out things, and you realize you're doing it for the Joker, and you're plotting out the bus thing in the first scene of the movie. So Mission Impossible 3 had their own alternate reality game which was called the Global Hunt: The Ultimate Mission.
Oh, and so I forgot about that.
What you had to do is, there were multiple weeks of this. Every week you had a different puzzle you had to solve, and it would be, so you'd get whatever code phrase, and you'd have to go to a different website somewhere else on the internet, figure out the puzzle, come back to the IMF website, put it back in, and get your code, put it in. The one that I remember of all is you had to go to Craigslist Misconnections and find a post about Miss Yancey being part of the whole poem, and find that clue and come back and put it in. Anyone who completed all of them, if you did it and you did, I think you were the best because there were scores. I think you got a trip to the premiere or something. But anyone who participated and did all of them got this really cool congratulations, virtually signed by Tom Cruise and J.J. Abrams. But you also got a film cell.
Nice.
And so I was one of those who actually did it. The traces of this promotion are almost entirely scrubbed from the internet. I could barely find anything other than a logo that said this logo right here. I've sent this into the Mission Impossible podcast, Light the Fuse, because they were talking about the promotional, and they were asking for anyone who actually participated. And so I sent in my photos, but I'll also post photos up on our social media of the film cell that I have. I'll just describe it. It is from the scene
just
where
make it into an NFT.
Oh no, not getting into that arena. But the film cell I have is from when he launched into the car from the explosion.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, it's good. I don't know if everyone got the same one or if people got different ones, but that's the one I got. So,
I remember doing 2 weeks of that thing.
You did?
And then nope, I'm out. I'm out.
I love this sort of stuff. Even movies that I didn't really care about. I love puzzles and that sort of stuff. So I was like, all right, I'm in.
Yeah, but it's a very interesting form of viral marketing. I remember the Dark Knight one.
Yeah. I miss them. I wish they would do them again.
Every once in a while, they're still around.
Yeah,
they're just not nearly as prevalent.
I mean, to date this episode, there was one for there was something where you had to text in a message for John Wick 3, and now anyone who participated in that is getting texts for promotions for John Wick 4, as if they were coming from the Continental. But I wanted to make sure I talked. I had it on my desk, and I was like, "Oh no!" I guess I looked over, like, "Oh no, I forgot to talk about this." I want to make sure I talk about it. Because that was a cool thing that, as a big Mission Impossible fan, participated in that and actually getting that sent to me was amazing.
I completely forgot about that, so thank you for reminding me about that. Now I'm sad that I didn't complete it.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, now it is time for our ratings on a scale of 1 to 10 martinis, 1 being The Avengers 1997, 10 being even better than Taken.
Oh, right, because did Matt actually give that a 10?
No, he gave it a 9.5.
Okay, so that is,
Yeah,
I think
a 10
we did, yeah.
has not yet been reached.
Not
How
yet.
do we feel about Mission Impossible 3? Jay, would you like to go first?
Sure. I give it a good solid 8 martinis.
All right. Would you like to explain why?
I think the fact that it brings Ethan down to a more humanistic character, not just a super spy. It showcases that there's a human being somewhere underneath all that that's been trapped and buried, as all agents are. And it showcases a lot more of the banter and the way the team is built. That Ethan has a ability to ingratiate himself and to pull in good, solid people. Philip Seymour, I mean, you can't go wrong with him. Rest in peace. It just hit all the little points that you want to hit. Not the most amazing in all capacity, but it did a great job in all of them to a degree. Like you said, the cold start was great, and then having it play through around, showcasing the technology, and then later on seeing how it has evolved. That, even though that's a hindsight thing, it actually makes me appreciate it a little bit more. So maybe I'll give it a 8.5 martinis now that I'm thinking about it.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, it just did so many good things rather than just a typical Mission Impossible or typical spy-esque movie where this is a dapper young or old guy, depending. It shows that they could actually be humanized.
All right, Zach, you want to go next?
This movie was really hard to rate for me. So the pros, the villain is really good. Probably the best in the series. I also liked that the world wasn't going to blow up. Like, the stakes were much more personal and intimate. On the other hand, a lot of the story stuff that we've talked about bugs me a lot. We don't need to go through it again. A lot of people made really weird decisions to drive the story forward. Christian, do you have what I rated Mission Impossible 2?
I do.
Do you have access to that?
Yes, I do. So Mission Impossible 2, you gave it you gave it a 4? Wow.
Yeah, I think I did like this more than Mission Impossible 2.
All right.
I will give it 6 out of 10 martinis, I think.
Wow. All right. Impressive.
Interesting.
It was
what
like,
did you give the first movie? You gave it a 7. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. I like the first one more.
Whereas Jay gave Mission Impossible 2 a 6.5. I gave it an 8.
Okay, so we're moving up and down, but we seem to like them on the whole. Okay. All right, Christian, you are up.
So, I will say, when I first watched it in theaters, I was a little let down. I don't know. Maybe I was coming from the mindset of MI2 and I was expecting more of that. So when I got this, it wasn't what I wanted. And I was especially pissed off about I don't get to see the heist. Even though, all right, we had already had the big heist of the movie, which was getting Davian out of Rome, where I am now. This may be the most relatable Ethan Hunt for me at this time of my life. He is in a long-term relationship, living in Virginia, has a dog. This is relatable Ethan Hunt.
Is boring at parties. Ayo.
Yeah, he was the life of the party. He was giving Rick booze. He was making martinis, getting ice.
Yeah.
That's always hard.
Yeah. So, watching it now again, like I've seen it a few times since I saw it in theaters, and I feel like every time I've watched it, I've come to appreciate it more. Not just because I'm relating to Ethan more, at this time in my life, but also just I think the way that basically they made him more relatable, they made him more of a real person so that they could do the transition. Like without this movie, you couldn't have got to where we've gone for Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, and Fallout. I mean, especially Ghost Protocol and Fallout with how much, and we'll get to them, but how much Julia plays into those movies. You couldn't have done those without the setup that's been done here.
I definitely think that in Hollywood, there's an expectation which every sequel has to be bigger. Bigger explosions, bigger fights, bigger personalities. And the recent Mission Impossibles are starting to fall into that trap. Would you agree?
I think it's only bigger for the stunt in which Tom Cruise I think in terms the stakes are well, actually no. Fallout had like some of the biggest stakes, and I mean, nuclear weapons.
I was thinking more the stunt. Like every stunt has to be bigger than the last one.
And I'm okay with that though, because that is just a trope of this series that those stunts have gotten crazier and crazier.
Mm.
And that is half the fun of these movies, is seeing what ridiculous thing Tom Cruise will do for our entertainment.
That's true.
Yeah, so like I said, this really was the setup for all those movies. I also liked how, as much as I love MI2, it's not a team movie. I like how the team played more focus here, even though it was still Ethan doing a lot of stuff. They actually had roles and things to do. They had defined things that, oh, you're going to be doing these things to help out with everything else. Whereas 2, it was, all right, I'm going to do all the things and you can just wait around as I do the things. And for that, I'm debating between an 8 and an 8.5. I think I'm still going to have to give it an 8 because I don't have the nostalgia filter I do for MI2, and it's not as good as some of the later ones, but it's still a very good movie.
Good. I'm glad that you've turned around on it.
Yeah.
I think the other reason why I'm rating mine so high is because all those actors are the same age. So like it's like, oh, they're me. Yay! And the shock of, oh God, what, I look that young. Yeah, I mean they were all born within like 2 to 3 years of me, so like, it's all
so and I assume you're talking about what, Kerry Russell and Maggie Q and Jonathan Rhys-Meyers?
Jonathan Rhys-Meyers, yeah.
Yeah.
And
Dr. Manhattan, that guy? No?
Billy Crudup.
How old is he? Yeah.
No. Michelle is also my age.
Oh, that's right. I knew I was forgetting someone else. Michelle Monaghan. Yeah.
I think Bahar's 5 years difference. Yeah, I mean they're all like right around my age, so it was like, oh, these are my peers. I have to appreciate that.
Yeah. All right, thanks for joining us, Jay. I always love having you on here because you take my side for these, and I know Zach, of course, also loves having you on here. Yeah. Anything you want to promote?
Tuesday Night Gaming is our other podcast where we talk about various shows and movies that are currently in the sci-fi fantasy realm. They're basically spoiler casts while we play video games together, and that's always fun. You can also follow me on the social medias at MC Slanty for the most part, and also twitch.tv/MC Slanty, and feedyournerd.com where I am the webcomic artist.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, for joining us. You can find us on social medias at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Until next time, I'm Christian.
And I'm Zach.
And we are The Spy-Fi Guys, signing off.
Thank you for listening to The Spy-Fi Guys. If you enjoyed our podcast, please be sure to give us a 5-star rating on iTunes. The theme song from this podcast is Mistake the Getaway by Kevin MacLeod from Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0. Films, books, and television shows reviewed by our podcast are the intellectual property of their respective copyright holders, and no infringement is intended.
This is a personal podcast. Any views, statements, or opinions expressed in this podcast are personal and belong solely to the participants. They do not represent those of people, institutions, or organizations that the participants may or may not be associated with in a professional or personal capacity unless explicitly stated. Any views or opinions are not intended to malign any religion, ethnic group, club, organization, company, or individual.
You can find our podcast on social media at The Spy-Fi Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.